Another gorgeous summer day in New York City, and the Mets and the Marlins getting set to play some baseball. Plenty of stuff to do during the day, but then it's time to hop on the 7 train and come on down. Maybe first, a nice night for a picnic in Central Park. Glad you could join us tonight as Pepsi Max presents New York Mets baseball on SNY. It's the Mets and the Miami Marlins here at Citi Field. Well, you look at this Mets-Marlins series, and one thing comes to your mind. It's really the play of the shortstop. I mean, all the offseason drama. Will Jose Reyes stay or will he go? Obviously, he ended up going to the Marlins. And it's been an interesting homecoming for Reyes. Second time now playing at Citi Field. He's gotten booed every single time to the plate, something that he's admitted has affected him, no doubt. But while Reyes left, it's allowed Ruben Tejada to come in. And Reyes and Tejada have a special relationship here. You know, Reyes is a guy that last year, he took a lot of his time to sit down with Ruben before and after games, during games, to talk baseball, and to really get to know each other. There's an admiration there, and it's interesting that Tejada has simply taken off. He hasn't tried to be Jose Reyes. He's tried to be Ruben Tejada, and that has certainly worked on every single level, like at the plate, where he's had some epic at-bats and even showing you some power, too. You know, he's had consistent D all year, but he's made the terrific play on D, as we just saw there. Tejada, how about this play? In the hole, jumping, and he fires it on target to Ike Davis. But he's done a terrific job taking good at-bat after good at-bat, going 3-2 in seemingly every count. He's now got a 12-game hitting streak. During that time, he's just been terrific. Look at the comparison with Tejada and Reyes now. And Reyes had a slow start. Admittedly, he was pressing at the beginning of that, but he's come on, too, so much so that Reyes has a 25-game hitting streak right now, and he's batting .366 during that streak. So the shortstops, plenty of intrigue in that matchup tonight. Meanwhile, when you talk about the starting pitchers for this game, you talk about a couple guys that are, trying to get their sea legs, if you will. Chris Young is a guy that came off a start. His last time was terrific against San Francisco. 7 innings, 1 run allowed, kind of got back on track for him, got the Mets a win in that day game in San Fran. He's trying for his 4th win of the year. And for the Marlins, it's Nate Eovaldi. He came over in the Hanley Ramirez trade, coming off the worst start of his career, just 2 innings, and he got shelled by the Atlanta Braves. Eovaldi, big right-hander hard thrower, looking to get back on track tonight. So we've got the pitches, we've got the shortstops, and we've got the Pepsi Porch. Gary, Keith, and Ron getting set to call the game from way up there. Fellows have the call and the first pitch next. by the all-new Mazda CX-5 with 35 highway miles per gallon. By Cholula Hot Sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. By Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on Dunkin'. By Pepsi, get 50% off 2 tickets when you bring your Mets 50th anniversary can to the Citi Field box office. Visit Mets.com/Pepsi for all your details. And by Kia. Oh, a gorgeous summer night, and what better time for Gary, Keith, and Ron to broadcast tonight's game from the Pepsi Porch. That's pretty high up there, fellas. Don't look down. Take it away, guys.
Here's what we figured, Kevin. The Mets have lost 8 straight home games, and they haven't won in Citi Field in a month. So what do you do when things are going wrong? Some teams pick a lineup out of the hat. We just move 350 feet or so out to the Pepsi Porch, and we've had a lot of fun here the last couple of years, so we're back.
Well, baseball is a very superstitious sport. The athletes are superstitious. Right. So are the announcers. Third time is the charm.
Well, the Mets are 1-1 when we've been to the Pepsi Porch. We had the Angel Pagan walk-off last year. The Phillies beat the Mets earlier this year, so this is like the rubber game.
Well, I was telling a lot of the young people when we came down here, they were all excited that we're walking down, they're doing the game in front of them. I said, if you catch a baseball, you get to get on TV. So I know 12 of my friends are here tonight sitting in the Pepsi Porch because they love what the broadcast from here.
You might have gotten somebody hurt by telling them that, by the way. So it's a lot of fun for us. We get a different perspective on the game. And I think we learn things about the game, especially from an outfielder's perspective, sometimes from a pitching perspective, that we can't see anywhere else.
Well, I think for me personally, I rely less on the monitor, which makes my director, Bill Webb, very upset. But it's a different perspective. I like to see more what's going on in the field, and where I got the backs of the outfielders here. You can see the play when the balls hit the left center field. You can see the rotation in the cutoffs, the relays as the infielders move into position. It's a whole new ball game for us.
I like the interaction between the outfielder and infielder as they try to figure out who's going to call off who to catch the pop-up.
And, of course, when the right fielder comes underneath the Pepsi Porch, then we just don't know what's going on. It's the Mets and the Marlins. We're in the Pepsi Porch. They're down in the field. Mets trying to get even in the series. First pitch coming up. Tonight brought to you by Hyundai. Brian Peterson gets a start in left field tonight with the Mets starting a right-hander. Greg Dobbs, the rarely used in the field Marlin, will play third base. Nick Green gets a start at second tonight as the Marlins, who won last night, go up against the 6' 10" right-hander Chris Young.
You know, Chris Young is 3-5, but 2 of his last 3 starts, he's made it through 7 innings, and coming off probably his best start, I think, of the entire season. No walks, 4 punch-outs, 1 run in San Francisco, and a 9-1 Mets win.
And we'll take a look at the Metsy defense, brought to you by Lexus and Valdespin here. Valdespin, excuse me. 8th start in left field. Also, Mike Baxter gets his 6th start in right field. The infield is pretty much the starting 5 out there. Davis, Murphy, Tejada, Wright, and Tolley.
A significant start for Baxter. It's his first start at Citi Field since the catch that protected the Johan Santana no-hitter.
But in right field this time and not left field. And I think it's one thing worth noting. Valdespin, not a lot of experience. Baxter, usually a first baseman, left fielder, and right. Chris Young, a lot of fly ball out. So that's important.
So the Mets and the Marlins. A little breeze blowing. We got a little bit of sun in our eyes, but that should be gone in a few seconds as the sun sets behind the left field foul pole as Brian Peterson leads things off against Chris Young, and the first pitch of the night is a fastball in for a call strike. Peterson making his 22nd start for the Marlins. Spent a lot of time in New Orleans this year in AAA where he was hitting .321. He's an anteater from Cal Irvine. And he fouls it off the left side, and it's 0-2. Justin Ruggiano on deck, then Jose Reyes for the Marlins, who are now 3 games behind the Mets in the standings in the National League East. Mets are in 3rd. The Marlins and Phillies tied for 4th and last.
Well, this is a big opportunity for Peterson here with a Bonifacio on the disabled list. He is going to get some playing time, a lot of playing time, and a lot of time in the leadoff spot in the order.
You know what's going to show me? In the rosters of all 3 teams, Miami, Philadelphia, and the Mets, who's going to play the hardest down the stretch? Who's going to show you something?
Oh, it's the angle from where we're sitting.
That's the angle from what Chris Young usually sees when he's pitching.
He does see things from a different perspective than the rest of us. Only John Roush can fully appreciate what that looks like. And Peterson takes Lone away, 2-2. Well, Chris Young's trying to do something that he has not done since 2005, and that is win a game in New York City. He's never won a game at Citi Field as a Met. His only career win in New York City came in April of 2005, pitching for the Rangers at the old Yankee Stadium. Since then, he's pitched once at the old Yankee Stadium, 3 times at Shea, and 5 times here at Citi Field, looking for a win. And it's taken up and away, and a full count to Peterson leading off the game.
Well, what better team for him to face? This is a team he's kind of mastered over 3 career starts.
Problem is, the last one was 5 years ago.
Yep.
3-2 from Young, and Peterson lines one to right field, right underneath us. Mike Baxter makes the grab for the first out of the night. That brought us right out of our seats.
Already.
It's the one blind spot for us is right underneath us, which is where Baxter caught the ball. So here's Justin Ruggiano, the center fielder, who's been playing awfully well. This is a 30-year-old journeyman who was in spring training with the Astros this year. They let him go. The Marlins picked him up, and he has taken the ball and run with it. On base percentage over 400, slugging percentage over 600. Ruggiano hitting at 345.
He's always been one of those kind of players, guys. Sorry to cut you off there, Keith. Just a full of hustle, kind of one of those Crash Davis in the outfield guys.
And he's got some pop. The 8 home runs and 15 doubles. Also stole 9 bags. Was 2 for 4 last night with a run and a stolen base.
Sometimes it takes a while to get your unique opportunity, and it is here now for Ruggiano. And it's taken, a Marlins team that has had to divest significantly, and that's created chances for people who weren't even in the game plan when the year began. Jose Reyes on deck, and Ruggiano hits one out to center field. Andres Torres has the call and the catch, and there are 2 men down. Chris Young, true to form, getting the first 2 hitters on fly balls to the outfield.
Well, I must say the sun can't get down fast enough. We're looking right into the sun on fly balls, and I basically lost that fly ball.
The only thing is that you don't have to catch any of them, so we're in good shape.
Oh, it's got a few more minutes. It's going to be down.
Now Jose Reyes with 2 out and nobody on. Reyes starting the night with a 25-game hitting streak and swings at the first pitch he sees from Young. 0-1.
Well, he got a little bleeder last night up the first base line off Jonathan Neese, and that kept the streak alive.
1 for 4 last night. And he flies this one deep to right, heading to our neighborhood and into the Pepsi Porch for a home run for Jose Reyes, and the Marlins have a 1-0 lead. Well, it landed in the section just next to us in the front row. A non-catch by the fan as it carried him back onto the field. Reyes has his 8th home run of the year. He now has a 26-game hitting streak, and the Marlins take a 1-0 lead.
I don't think it was a non-catch. It was just a bunch of folks trying to get out of the way. This is a lean off the bat of Reyes, Keith.
Fastball up, down the middle. And we talked, Ronnie, that Young is a lot like, you see just to our left, and Duck, but
I think the sun might have been in her eyes.
Yes, and we talked about it ad nauseum about Chris Young, how he gets hurt like Sid Fernandez, mid-thigh to belt. He has to be up and down in the strike zone.
Here's Carlos Lee, and he takes a strike with the breaking ball, 1-2. I didn't think we ever said anything bad about Jose. Why is he aiming at us?
I was wondering. Was that intentional? Is he that good?
I don't know. I think we might have said something bad occasionally.
Carlos Lee, meanwhile, is riding a 12-game hitting streak. Not quite Reyes territory, but he has been swinging the bat much better since coming over from the Astros to the Marlins in early July. 2-2 from Young, and it's foul back.
That's where his fastball needs to be, upstairs. And Chris Young against lefties has struggled this year. 307 they're hitting off him coming into the game. He's given up 8 home runs now, 6 to the lefties.
His last start, he allowed just a run on 4 hits over 7 innings in San Francisco. And he misses low to Lee, 3-2. Giancarlo Stanton would be next. Well, the Marlins are in the 10th game of an 11-game road trip, and before that Reyes home run, they had hit just 1 home run in 9 games on the trip. And that's up and in, and Lee is on with a 2-out walk.
Well, they're 3-6 on their current road trip.
There's 3 out of 4 in Atlanta, 3 out of 4 in Washington before winning last night.
And that's pretty much what happened to the Mets out of the gate, huh? When they opened up the second half, Atlanta and Washington.
Now Giancarlo Stanton, who made his return from the disabled list last night, missed almost a month because of some minor knee surgery. Went 0 for 3, drove in a run with a sacrifice fly last night. And swings at the first pitch he sees and flies it to deep left. Back to the warning track. Valdespin at the wall. It's out of here. Giancarlo Stanton with a 2-run homer, and the Marlins with a couple of home runs in the opening inning lead at 3-0. For Stanton, his 20th home run of the year. And the Marlins going long ball against Chris Young. 1 home run in 9 games on the trip coming in. 2 home runs in a span of 3 batters here in the first inning.
Well, so very strong. I thought this was a fly ball, Ronnie. I thought he got under it.
It's a little breezy out here, and obviously maybe help carry that. But home run hitters, when they get under him, they carry. And he's one of them, one of the best.
It's that backspin they get.
He's a strong man. If he'd have hit that ball on the screws, I might have gone out of the ballpark.
You mean literally?
Literally, yes.
So Reyes a solo home run, Stanton a 2-run blast, 3-0 Miami, and now Greg Dobbs takes a strike.
Well, let's look at the elevation here, Ron, of the fastball.
Well, the problem is that Mike Stanton is a guy that you can pitch up in the strike zone, but you've got to have 90 plus. You can't have 85, 86 because he can catch up to it.
Well, if you're going to pitch him up and you're Chris Young, you have to pitch him up and out of the strike zone.
Up in the letters and above.
And I like in, too, because every big power hitter is vulnerable inside. They want to get those arms extended.
That was Eduardo Perez, the hitting coach of the Marlins. and the son of Tony Perez, the Hall of Famer, of great Cincinnati Red, Montreal Expo, but most of his career, Tony Perez played with the Reds.
Dobbs takes a strike, and it's 2-2. I wonder if you're the hitting coach of a team like the Marlins, who are, now playing in a park that does not yield a lot of home runs in their new stadium. As Dobbs goes down swinging, we'll talk more about that in the next inning, but I wonder whether you teach hitting a tad differently than you would otherwise. A dynamic start for the Marlins tonight against Chris Young. Jose Reyes takes aim, and Stanton hits a 2-run shot. 3-0 Miami as the Mets come to bat. At Citi Field. Mets will have to find out of a first inning hole. Here's your Geico Mets starting lineup for tonight. Mike Baxter slides into the 2-hole. Every available left-handed bat in the lineup for the Mets tonight against the young right-hander who came over from the Dodgers, Nathan Eovaldi. And Robin Tejada first pitch swinging, sends one foul, 0-1.
When he was in Los Angeles, I was talking to Don Mattingly about Nate Eovaldi, and he was just gushing about how he's gutty, he works hard, doesn't have any alibi, just one of those young prospects that he really liked, and that it cost him that to get Hanley Ramirez.
Tejada riding a 12-game hitting streak as he starts the night and spins away a ball and a strike. Ruben now at 321 for the year, 365 on base percentage. Mike Baxter hitting second in the order, and then David Wright in the opening inning. The Mets faced Eovaldi just a couple of weeks ago when he was pitching in a Dodger uniform. He pitched pretty well, 4 1/3. He only allowed 1 run and struck out 7. Just missed with that. 2-1 to Tejada.
Well, Eovaldi throws awfully hard. 92, 93, 94. He's got an instant, consistent curveball. Pretty good changeup.
And he'll cut his fastball as well, which has been a nice weapon for him, although he still has a lot of trouble getting left-hand hitters out. But the right-handers he's dominated. They're hitting just 210 against him. The lefties 359, which is why Terry stuffed every left-handed hitter in the lineup tonight.
Well, in his 2 starts with the Marlins, lefties are hitting 417 against him, and
most of that supplied by the Braves, as this one's hit foul down the right side. The Braves toasted them for 6 runs and 8 hits in 2 innings, and they've got probably as much and as good left-hand hitting as anybody in the league. Of course, the Braves will be in here this weekend with all those left-handed bats, Bourne and Chipper and Hayward and McCann.
Fighting to stay close with the Washington team that doesn't seem to lose.
Braves lost last night, shut out by Cole Hamels, while the Nats won their 4th in a row. That's ball 4, and Tejada's on with a leadoff walk. That's the way Eovaldi wanted to start after being handed a 3-run lead.
We'll take a look at the Coors Light Marlin defense, and Dobbs, the veteran, really not known for his glove. He's an offensive guy, and third base is his position. He can play some first since his 8th start at third base. Nick Green, just brought up from AAA. It's his 2nd start. Started last night at third base. He's over at second today.
Now Mike Baxter hitting a .301 on the year. Just 73 at bats in his injury curtailed season. And he hits one foul, 0-1.
Interesting, huh? Both hitters swinging at the first pitch off the erratic at times Eovaldi.
Well, he's a fastball pitcher, and you know, we got the charts on him, and Ronnie, you and I looked at him.
Yeah.
Both pitchers throw 70% plus fastballs. Makes me wonder why all these hitters want to look for a breaking ball. Why would you want to look for 30%?
Bounce down to third. Dobbs will go to first with it. In time to get Baxter for the first out as Tejada takes second. Dobbs, who is an indifferent fielder at third base, making sure he got at least one.
There's the advantage of being up here in the Pepsi Porch. Ronnie and I had to look. We are looking right down second base towards third, and Dobbs had the force out.
Easy force out.
And Dobbs is in the lineup for his bat, not his glove.
Well, you can just keep an eye on Tejada here on the right of your screen. He's got him. Quick throw.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's dead to rights. He never even thought about it.
So a runner in scoring position with one out. Now David Wright, who has really been struggling lately. Just 8 for his last 53. Average down to .323 on the year. Still 7th best in the National League. And he takes a fastball for a strike.
Well, I got to believe right here, Eovaldi likes to throw that little cutter to the right-hand hitters. That David just stays fixed on that, and he can drive it to the opposite field.
That's a faced Eovaldi twice already this year, both times in a Dodger uniform and both times in the last month and a half. Chopper back to the mound, and Eovaldi will go to first with it to get right for the second out. And Tejada moves over to third. So now Mike Davis will step in. Ike 1 for 2 last night. He has a home run against Eovaldi this year. That was at Dodger Stadium back on June the 30th. Tejada at third with 2 out after the Marlins hit a couple of long balls off Chris Young to take a 3-0 first inning lead.
Well, Ike's going to get some fastballs off this guy. And we saw on the last road trip what Ike hit 4 home runs, 3 in the one day.
Right.
A lot of first ball fastballs he jumped on and pulled down the right field line for home runs.
And then didn't see another first pitch fastball the rest of the road trip.
You're right.
Grounds one to second base, and Nick Green right in front of it. Side retired. 0 runs, 0 hits, 0 errors. Pepsi Max, 0 calories. Maximum Pepsi taste. After 1, 3-0 Miami. coming to Citi Field for a post-game concert this Friday, presented by Dwayne Reed and Just for Men. Catch Mercy Me live in concert after the Mets host the Braves. Get to Mets.com/MercyMe or call 718-507-TIXX. Nick Green bluffing at a bunt as we start the second inning. Green, the well-traveled utility infielder, starting his second straight game for the Marlins after being called up. And he grounds one out to Daniel Murphy. One quick out for Young in the second inning. Saw something in Young's last start that I don't think we'd ever seen before from Chris. He had a 1-2-3 inning with 3 ground balls.
Yeah.
The catcher, number 14, John Buck.
Here's John Buck, who had the big night last night, 2 for 3, including a 2-run double against John Neese that sealed Neese's fate. Buck is hitting just $177 for the year. If his name was Simoleon, you think we would say he was hitting the Simoleon 77?
Right. Wasn't there a player, Gino Cimoli? Remember?
Gino Cimoli,
yes.
sure.
Who did he play for? The American League, right?
Senators.
Right.
Fly ball deep left center. Back goes Torres to the warning track. Back at the wall, leaping, and he can't make the catch. Buck to second. He'll pull in there. Torres getting all the way back to the fence and making the leap, but couldn't make the connection. It's a double for John Buck.
Well, deepest part of the park here, and he gets to the fence. It's it's a tough call. He had one more step he could have taken, but he took a gauge of where the wall was and just out of his reach.
Unfortunately for Chris Young, we picked a good night to be out in the outfield because everything's coming our way.
That ball almost came to right where the triangle is there, so it's a little 5 feet deeper for Torres.
Here's Evaldi, who is 1 for 15 on the season. Runner at second and 1 out, and he's late on the fastball.
Just out of his reach, just tipped his mitt.
Your Coors Light freeze cam. Torres, who made a similar play last night on the ball hit by Stanton. They went for the sacrifice fly. This one a little bit tougher. We were just talking between innings about the catch Roger Bernardina made to save the game for Washington last night in Houston. Going behind one of those pillars in front of the bullpen in left center at Minute Maid Park to save the game in the 12th.
I've been kind of waiting for those Nationals to hit a little skid, and they just don't. They keep winning, and Bryce Harper's down to around, 255, 257. And he's having a little bit of trouble, but they've been getting it from everybody.
But you and I were saying, when you have catches like that, you start to think, this is our year.
You start winning ball games like that, and they are winning the tight ball games, too. And a lot of it has to do with their pitching staff.
Well, their manager knows a little bit about karma.
Yes, he does.
Davey lived through some karma with you guys in your championship season.
Well, I tell you what, I love playing for Davey, and a lot of talk that Davey didn't discipline enough. Okay, maybe, but when you're on the field and he's on the bench, he cracked the whip. He just let you run a little bit when outside the stadium.
He used to always have that adage: get to 10 early, 10 over early. Get to 20 by the break, and then that's when you start your push. And now they're at 24.
Think about this from the standpoint of history. If the Nationals were to go all the way this year, for a manager to win a World Series and then more than a quarter century later win another one, hit sharply foul by Evaldi.
I mean, it would be historic. It really would.
So you got Clint Hurdle right now, who's probably the front runner for a lot of season left. For manager of the year. But what happens if the Nationals win? I mean, they weren't a shoe-in to win this thing. I mean, Davey's got to be under serious consideration.
I think that because of the difference in talent between the two teams, I think Clint is definitely the front runner. Swing and a miss. Evaldi down on strikes for the second out. What do you think, Ronnie?
Well, I think you're right. I think what happens also is that you have a Pittsburgh team that hasn't been to the playoffs since 1992. There's just a lot working in Clint's favor. The one thing I will give to Davey, though, and you're mentioning 25 years, quarter century, to be able to coach an athlete in one era and then coach him in another generational era, to me, is just remarkable.
And like I said, there's still lots of season left. Yeah. There can be a big collapse. We've seen our share of collapses at the turn of the century in September.
Really? Here's Brian Peterson, who lined out to right to lead off the game. And he pops this one foul. Coming back for a look is Tolley, but that's back in the crowd.
And this is a time when a starting pitcher, after you have a rocky inning like Chris has had, that, you know, in your mind you think you can't give up any more. Cannot give up one single run more to get my team out of it. You can have a successful game if you keep it here. Those 7 innings.
Well, last night, one big inning was enough to beat John Neese. Young hoping he gets more offensive support than that. Just off the plate to Peterson, a ball and a strike.
Paul Emmel, the home plate umpire so far, pretty strict, tight strike zone. Not working in Chris Young's favor.
Buck at second with 2 out. He's no guarantee to score on a base hit to the outfield. And Peterson lines one. Baxter's right there. So twice in a row, Peterson has lined out to Baxter in right field. And that gets Young through the top of the second. Still 3-0 Miami. Cadillac, Ryan Braun had the go-ahead hit for the Brewers in the bottom of the 8th, an RBI double as the Brewers sweep the series from the Reds, winning today 3-2. Josh Hamilton, who has been struggling, hit his 30th home run of the year. Adrian Beltre had the go-ahead sacrifice fly in the 9th. Rangers beat the Red Sox 10-9, and the Indians finally win. They snap an 11-game losing streak. Shin-Soo Choo 4 for 4, couple of RBIs as they beat the Twins 6-2. All that this afternoon.
Did you see that in that Red Sox game? Matt Harrison didn't have a great game. Who came in to relieve? Roy Oswalt.
Not happy about being in the bullpen.
Well, he proved it. He gave up 4 runs in an inning and a third.
There you go. Said he was particularly unhappy that he had learned from the media, not from the manager, that he was moving to the bullpen. Daniel Murphy 2 for 5 last night, including a home run into the Pepsi Porch. See if we can duplicate that now that we're sitting here. Here's a call, strike, 2-1. It was Murph's first Citi Field home run in more than a year, and his 4th of the year. Now he is at a long hot stretch now. Last 35 games, he's hitting .380.
Well, we gave away that changeup.
And here's the home run. Hanging slider, stayed right in, hit it right where we are, just about. Yes, that might have got us close. So Murph, it's important to note too, he takes ball 4 outside of April. Every month Murph has hit over 300 with runners in scoring position.
So Evaldi walks the leadoff hitter for the 2nd straight inning, living dangerously with a 3-run lead. And now Jordani Valdespin, who's getting the start in left field. Valdespin's bat has cooled off considerably, just 7 for his last 41. .258 on the year, just a .286 on base percentage, which is why Terry Collins is reluctant to bat him near the top of the order. Had a conversation with Terry tonight about Ruben Tejada and his future place in the batting order. Been doing such a nice job leading off this year, but you look at Ruben and you don't really see a leadoff hitter, I think, and Terry agrees that you see more of a number 2 hitter.
I agree, and we talked about it before, Gare, I think on the last road trip, that he needs to learn to hit and run. He bunts well already. He takes pitches well, very patient. He can work on his hit and running. There's not a lot of team speed with his Met ball club.
How could there be a better number 2 hitter than a guy who hits better with 2 strikes?
The problem for the Mets right now is they don't have a prototypical leadoff hitter. And you look at Valdespin and you look at his tools and you think, well, if he could just be a little more patient, maybe he could evolve into a leadoff hitter. Terry hit him there one game during the last road trip, hit Tejada second, but right now with his impatience at the plate, that's pretty tough.
Well, he's very unbridled. He doesn't pull the reins back. He lets it all hang out. He lets it rip. And I think when he had his chance on the road trip to start, you know, they weren't throwing him the fastball. When you pinch hit, you tend to get more fastballs. You're cold off the bench. They'll come after you. But he's proven to hit the off-speed pitches, but they were off-speed pitches for strikes. They threw him a lot of breaking stuff in the dirt that he didn't lay off.
Did you notice that we have the organist in the house?
Is that awesome?
In fact, he's right up behind us, Ray Castaldi, who's here occasionally on Sundays. Well, he's here just for this big event. Isn't that great?
I love it.
I love it.
I think about growing up at Shea Stadium and listening to Jane Jarvis, who was there every game, and that was the sound of Shea.
Yeah.
The organ player in San Diego was great. I can't remember his name.
Atlanta, they got a good one. Los Angeles, the Dodgers.
He played the most fun music, happy music, and San Diego was old Jack Murphy Stadium was such a great place to play.
3-0 to Valdespin, a strike. Well, St. Louis, when you played, Ernie Hayes was there when you were there, wasn't he?
We said Ernie Hayes and his orchestra. He couldn't get my song down.
What was your song?
My song was Thick as a Brick.
Oh, he wasn't.
But Jethro Tull, he did not like it. He tried to get me to change it.
Needed a flute.
I said, "Excuse me, it's my song."
He couldn't play the music with 1 foot up.
3-1 to Valdespin with Murphy aboard, and Giordani fouls it back. 3-2.
Get a little more breeze up here than in the booth, Gare. That's one thing. It's a nice cool breeze.
Really a perfect evening to be out here. Looks like the ladies from McFadden are on their way.
Oh, nice. Looks like they're going to bring us some food.
Everybody wants to feed us. That's
the last 2 days, right?
That's ball 4, and the Mets have 2 men on. So back-to-back walks by Eovaldi to start the bottom of the second. He's walked 3 of the first 6 hitters. Dave Freed, who's got his back to the McFadden's girls, our statistician, once he knows there's food, he won't be working the rest of the night. See, he just saw the food. There you go.
I don't think
he thinks it's all for him.
I don't think it's the food that's distracting him.
Dave's the only guy. Dave's the only guy, by the way.
Are you going to share, Dave?
When we get free food?
Leave a tip, Dave.
He takes it home.
Not your fingerprints.
Brings the shopping bag?
Does.
Here's Andres Torres with 2 men on. And he takes a high strike.
Well,
one of the young ladies from McFadden's brought the whipped cream.
Oh, gee.
The big jar, the big can of whipped cream.
Keep it away from me.
I thought it was cotton candy.
It's not on my diet.
1-1 to Torres, who was 1 for 3 and drove in a run last night. Eovaldi giving the Mets a solid chance to get right back in this game, down 3-0 in the second. And Torres pops one up. Reyes going out and makes the grab. Infield flyer was called. That's the first out.
Well, that just to make a note about Valdespin, we were talking about his free swinging. That was only his 4th walk.
Yeah.
It's hard to walk him.
But a couple of those have come recently, and I think he's made an effort to be a little more patient.
I wouldn't want to pull the reins up too much on him. It's part of his, Manny Sanguillen, that kind of swinger, the bad ball hitters. Yogi Berra was a bad ball hitter.
Roberto Clemente, Vladimir Guerrero. Josh Tolley, the batter, and he fouls one off.
I'd be remiss. We saw the girls coming down from McFadden's bringing us some food. I want to personally thank McFadden's all summer long. They've done a lot with me to raise money for type 1 diabetes, and they've just been fantastic. Steve McFadden, John Sullivan, all those people over there, and the girls who brought the food. Thank you for a great summer.
Nice work. Evaldi throwing that 95-mile-an-hour fastball by Tolley, and it's 0-2. Josh was 1 for 3 last night, a solid single to left.
We just threw the ball by him right down the middle here and beat him. Josh hasn't been getting the barrel through, and he's been uppercutting.
Slash down the left field line, and that'll go foul. You know, you look at Josh in the batter's box right now, and I think we have a really good angle from where we're sitting. When he first came up, he was in a crouch. He was in a 2-strike mode, taking the ball up the middle into left field. Now they've got a much more upright. He looks like a different hitter, and it's not really working for him.
You know, my personal feeling is that you know, he does all the work. There's no one's going to work any harder than Josh. But I think that in the past 3 weeks, there's been so much nitpicking, nibbling, people talking, saying some stuff that they shouldn't be saying, that if you're a human being, it's got to affect you on and off the field.
The ball's just beating him all the time, and I just wonder, I'm looking at his top hand, if he's got that ball in the palm of the bat, in the palm of his hand, or in his finger, you know, inside his fingers, wrapped around his fingers.
I remember coaches used to always say that if you're struggling, you're in between, Keith, you know, that you couldn't catch up to the fastball and you were always swinging at the breaking ball out of the strike zone. Just, I guess, not seeing it well is the phrase.
Well, they're just pounding him in. I mean, this is relentless.
Let me throw this out, and maybe it's talking out of school, but we've heard all year about how Josh and when Mike Nickius was here, how they would get to the ballpark at noon, at 1 o'clock for a night game, and start working on game plans.
But it is staying in.
Slow ground ball. Reyes will have to go to first with it and gets Tolley for the second out as the runners advance. I just wonder whether he's worn out.
Like mentally fatigued?
Yeah.
It's pretty young to be mentally fatigued, you would think. I know, though, I know what you're saying. They ask a lot more of the catchers today as far as devising game plans than they did. But you would hope when you're trying to make your mark that you'd have enough to not let that happen to you.
I don't see how you can be tired. He's not catching every day. He's a young man.
Here's Chris Young, who's helped himself on a number of occasions with the bat, has 2 RBIs this year. And takes a knee-high fastball. Murphy at third and Valdespin at second with 2 down. Mets already 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position tonight. But they've been better than any team all year with 2 outs and runners in scoring position.
Well, we've seen this with R.A. Dickey a couple times in the past month. Chris Young against Evaldi throws awfully hard. Stanton has a cannon in right field, so if he is fortunate enough to hit the ball to right field for a base hit, make sure he gets on his horse to first.
One and 2 to Young. Aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. We've had some gorgeous pictures from the blimp the last couple of nights.
Well, the Metsies had left 11 men on base last night, and off to a sluggish start right here. We still got Young, who's very dangerous. He's capable. He handles the bat well.
Evaldi ahead 1 and 2, and he takes care of Young to end the inning. So a couple of walks, but Evaldi evades trouble. 0 runs, 0 hits, 0 errors. Pepsi Max, 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. We'll have extended coverage of tomorrow's Mets-Marlins series finale, plus personalities will clash as they debate all the latest New York sports news on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, tomorrow at 5 only on SNY.
Oh, look at that. Don't throw me that high fastball. That was a lean, yeah. I'm telling you, it was a line drive.
You're still talking smack.
Is that a line drive in the box score or just in the picture? Justin Ruggiano leads off the third for the Marlins and fouls it back. Ruggiano flied to center his first time up. Jose Reyes and Carlos Lee to follow against Chris Young, who gave up a couple of long balls in the first inning to Reyes and Stanton, and thus the Marlins 3-0 lead. Chris making his 12th start tonight. Up to 66 innings now, which doesn't sound like much, except when you think about his last two seasons, as Ruggiano fouls one to Davis, and Ike stays with it for the first out.
A little bit of wind.
New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Pepsi Max. 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. By Modell's. Stop at your local Modell's and enter the Amazing Mets sweepstakes for your chance to win a once-in-a-lifetime Mets experience. By Geico. By State Farm. Tonight's State Farm agent of the day is Alan Wheeler of Brooklyn. Contact Alan's office at alanwheeler.biz. Jose Reyes takes a strike. Reyes nearly hit one into our laps his first time up. His 8th home run of the year. He now has a 26-game hitting streak. Pops this one up in foul ground. Right coming over and has enough room to make the grab. I think the wind is playing some tricks with the ball. Almost blew it away from Mike, and I think that one stayed in play for right because of a little breeze.
Well, all the more reason on a windy day. Well, it's not really windy, but with a ballpark where the pop-ups look like they've been problematic. 2 in a row now. Davis on the one corner and Wright on the other. I'd be using 2 hands.
2 out and nobody on. Now Carlos Lee, who walked and scored in the first inning. New York Mets baseball on SNY is also brought to you by Kia Motors and by New York 811. Before any digging project, big or small, call 811. Lee pops one up, and Tejada waits for it. Side retired. Very strong inning for Chris Young. He gets the side on just 7 pitches.
Is that F6? Oh, excuse me. We're still on.
3-0. There's so much going on up here, you can't even believe it.
That's why I got,
By the way, if people are listening, they can believe it.
I got sidetracked. I didn't know. I thought we were off the air.
We were the subjects of a trivia question.
Heath was the answer. I didn't hear the trivia question.
What was the question?
I don't know.
Whatever it was
something
probably
about Juan Marichal.
It was. Oh, I know what it was. What Met was born on Juan Marichal's birthday? I bet you.
Oh, because it's also Mickey Mantle's
right.
birthday.
So Mickey Mantle will be too easy. But Juan.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you were the answer. That doesn't make you Allen Iverson, but
no,
you're still the answer.
I'm not so sure I'd want to be Allen Iverson.
Well, you like practice.
You didn't like practice either.
Ruben Tejada walked his first time up. Ruben starting the night with a 12-game hitting streak. Nathan Eovaldi walked Tejada to start the first, walked the first 2 men in the second, but was able to escape trouble each time. And the breaking ball is down. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Mike Baxter on deck, then David Wright for the Mets here in the bottom of the third. Got a noontime start tomorrow.
Correction, you guys have a noontime start tomorrow.
What will you be doing at noon tomorrow?
Well, noon I'll just be finishing my workout.
Okay.
Like 11 o'clock gym tomorrow.
A little seamless lunch after that?
Absolutely. You called it. I'll be watching.
Hit hard into left center, a base hit. Over goes Peterson to play it, and Tejada now has a 13-game hitting streak. So Tejada hitting a rope for the Mets' first base hit. Before the game, Kevin Burkhardt talked to Jose Reyes about Ruben Tejada. Got his thoughts about his successor at shortstop for the Mets.
Tejada is like my little brother. You know, we have a great relationship. You know, we testing a lot with each other. I mean, you know, he's just made me feel happy, you know, just to see him play the way that he played. Because, you know, when he was playing second base, you know, I see all the potential that he have, you know, and he's natural shortstop, you know, and to see him do what he's doing right now, you know, it's amazing because he's still 20, 21, 22 years old, so he's going to be good in this game for a long time.
Nice words by Jose about his double play mate of the last couple of seasons.
They're very different personalities, but they really did have a tight bond while they shared a clubhouse here. Baxter pops one up. Reyes retreating and makes the catch going away for the first out.
I think also you have to like that Reyes kind of, I'm not saying took him under his wing, but there's a lot of veteran players that would not even talk to a younger player, and they became kind of friends or mentor-like.
Here's David Wright, who had a comebacker his first time up. And David cracks one to deep right field. Coming back is Stanton. He's got room in the corner to make the catch. 2 down. I don't think I've ever called a fly ball like that before. Coming back as opposed to going back. He was coming toward us.
That's right.
Right? Makes sense. Let's check in with Kevin.
You guys are talking about Reyes and Tejada. You know, there's a genuine respect there that's nice to see. You know, they shared a couple cool moments on the field. And, you know, I go back to last year. You know, the middle of the year on, you know, Reyes would sit with Tejada in the clubhouse for games all the time. And they would talk, obviously, a lot about the game. They did it in Game 2. Tejada would always sit next to Reyes. And, you know, Jose would get serious and talk with him. And, you know, Tejada looked up to him. And I think out of all that, the thing that's impressive about it, guys, besides Reyes giving his time and wanting him to help him, I think it was the first time in Jose's career he's really taken on that role, that mentor role. And to Tejada's credit, there have been other guys that sat with Reyes and tried to act like him. He never tried to do that. He took what he took from Jose and always remained true to himself.
Well, Reyes was certainly the mentee early in his career. There were a number of players, particularly Jose Valentin, who took Reyes under his wing.
Well, he was a winning player.
That was a great collection of players, I tell you. And that 06 season was that was their year.
That's really the way the torch is passed, isn't it? You know, as a young player, you learn, and when you get a little older, you start to pass along that same knowledge.
And you hope that it's generational. And sometimes it doesn't happen that way. You know, the leader, the right influential guys leave, and the other guys don't pick it up where they left off, and the team falls apart. I can tell you more than a few. When Willie Stargell left the Pirates, that team went right in the old proverbial bathroom toilet. And Stargell was such a glue to that ball club, and that was a cast of characters, that lumber company.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
Well, that's what Reyes left as a legacy in terms of his numbers with the Mets. He was a special player, and will always, despite the reception he's getting these days, have a significant place in Met fans' hearts. 2-2 to Davis, and that one skips in, and a full count to Ike. Davis grounded out to second base his first time up. Daniel Murphy would be next. Tejada will run with 3-2 and 2 down. Lee will play behind him. And Davis takes ball 4. That's the 4th walk already given up by Eovaldi. And the Mets will get the tying run to the plate with Murphy coming up.
Well, I'll tell you what, he should pay for this one. You got a struggling Davis that has lots of holes, and as opposed to a guy like Daniel Murphy, who has hit 304 of the 5 months so far this season, with men in scoring position and a contact hitter, line drive hitter.
Wow, that's a nice throwback. Jerry Grody, tremendous catcher for the world champion Mets in '69. Well, the Mets looking for the big hit that they've lacked in the first 2 innings. Murphy drew a walk his first time up. 2 on and 2 out, and Murphy skies one into shallow left center. Reyes retreating, called off by Ruggiano, and that retires the side. Mets strand a couple in the 3rd. Already 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. 3-0 Marlins after 3. Giancarlo Stanton leads off in the 4th inning down the left field line against Chris Young. And Stanton, who homered on the first pitch he saw tonight, rips a double on the second. And he's at second base with nobody out.
Well, we're talking. There it is, Ronnie. That belt-high fastball. He gets hurt, Chris Young, when he gets below the letters and above the knees.
So Stanton's second day back from the disabled list. Looks like he's right back in rhythm.
Yeah, right. Well, in his rehab, he had a couple of home runs down at Jupiter, single-A baseball.
And he has just destroyed the Mets this year in the 7 games between the two teams. Stanton's now hitting .393 with 2 homers and 11 RBIs in 28 at-bats. So he has really taken out his wrath on the Mets. And this is a guy the Mets are going to have to figure out a way of dealing with. They're going to be seeing his powerful visage for a long time.
You can't have any fear. You're going to have to pitch him in. That's the way to get him out.
Greg Dobbs struck out his first time up. And Dobbs pops one up, right coming over, and makes the grab for the first out. Well, you see the home run rate the last 3 years. Only Jose Bautista, Mike Napoli, and Albert Pujols have hit him at a faster rate. But the difference, the other 3 guys all in the prime or better of their careers. Stanton's 22. And you can't even imagine what he's going to be once he gets a little better knowledge of the strike zone, becomes a little more disciplined hitter.
And stays healthy.
Here's Nick Green, who grounded out to Murphy his first time.
Well, some good swings out there by the Marlin hitters so far early in this game.
Eduardo Perez.
Straight from the TV studios to the hitting coach.
Don't get any ideas. 0-2 now to Green.
Well,
that's a good pitch there.
There you go. Yeah. That's the elevation he has to be at. Get those hitters to chase the high one.
John Buck on deck.
Then that makes his curveball more effective, Ron, because he can go up and down the ladder.
Comes out into the same place. That's that cutter there. That's 79 miles an hour, trying to cut that on the outside part.
Now the 1-2 to Green, and he chases the pitch down. Strikeout number 3 for Chris Young. 2 out in the inning. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. Now the Mets will intentionally walk John Buck, having gotten burned by Buck in the 4th inning last night with 2 outs and first base open. They intentionally walked him in his next at bat in a similar spot, and now doing it again here. It's odd that you would walk a 177 hitter twice in 2 days, but Buck has not been that kind of hitter against the Mets.
Well, especially with a veteran pitcher out there, but the problem you have is Buck is hot against the Mets, and he just in his last at bat almost hit one out to left center field where he got his double.
So Buck, who's 3 for 4 in this series with a couple of doubles, now has his second intentional walk of the series. And there are 2 on for the pitcher, Evaldi.
You mentioned it last night, Gary, and first game for the Marlins against Mike Pelfrey hit a grand slam, Buck. So likes the Mets pitching so far.
Evaldi struck out his first time up. These 2 teams have combined to go 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position tonight. Mets 0 for 6, Marlins 0 for 4. And Young trying to keep that 0 for going. Misses for ball 1 to Evaldi.
I don't know if the fans have noticed, we've got a little different camera angle behind home plate. It's more above the pitcher and more behind him, so you get a better view of the inside outside corner. It's a nice little change that our producer, or most imaginative producer, Greg Picker, who's always trying to bring the very finest broadcast to you folks at home.
By the way, he just left the truck.
You just droop with sincerity. 2-0 to Evaldi. And there's the strike, 2-1. You really did mean that, though, didn't you?
I did. I like this shot. It's good. It's a good change of pace. Now, that's all I'll say about it. We're not supposed to elaborate.
This is a slightly different shot. And there's a strike, 2-2.
Two on, two out, 2-2 to the pitcher Eovaldi.
And he just got a piece of that to stay alive.
You just get a sense of the breaking ball. How at least from my eye, I can see what the hitter's trying to battle here on the breaking ball from this angle. Very nice.
More so than from behind the plate?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
So you really see the speed change, can't you?
Yes, you can. You can. It's a nice angle. I like it. I prefer it.
Swing and a miss, and Young works his way out of trouble. His 4th strikeout. Middle of the 4th at Citi Field, 3-0 Marlins. Mets upcoming schedule. You can listen to all Mets games on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Early game tomorrow with R.A. Dickey on the mound against Josh Johnson. Good pitching matchup. Then the Braves come in for the weekend before the Mets begin their next road trip in Cincinnati next Tuesday night. They go to Cincinnati and Washington on that next trip. Jordany Valdespin will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the 4th. Let's check in with Kevin.
What if you're Mets hitting coach Dave Hudgens, Gary? And, you know, obviously your goal here is what you've been preaching since you've been here, organization-wide, about, you know, getting the right pitch and swinging at good pitches, not at bad pitches, pitches you can handle for the most part. So if you have Jordany Valdespin, who swings at mostly anything, how do you attack that situation? Now, he's gotten better, and he's gotten more patient, I'd say. He has a walk today. But Hudgens said, you know what, I take it as a challenge, but the big reason is I don't want to take away his aggressiveness. I don't want him taking pitches, but I don't want him swinging at bad pitches. That's something he's got to get away from, and that's something that will come when he gets confidence hitting with strikes on him. It's about that. It's about feeling comfortable. If you have a strike or two, that you can still go out and get a good rip on a baseball. That's where he is not there yet. He said the other thing with him is he's not a video guy, and some guys are big into video, some guys not as much, but he's not a video guy at all. And I get the sense that maybe if he starts to struggle, if the league adapts to him, maybe then he'll understand the value of it and how that could help him get a little bit better. Guys?
Well, Kev, I think the one thing that I like the most about Dave Hudgens and his approach to the hitters is that each hitter's different and has a different swing and a different style, and he doesn't spit everybody into the same like a computer and come out the same. He works with what they have, what brought them to the big leagues, and that's why I think it's a big plus for Dave Hudgens.
And I think sometimes people misconstrue what the goal is for Dave. It's not about necessarily drawing walks. It's not necessarily about taking more pitches. It's pretty simple. Not swinging at pitches you can't hit.
Yeah. Pitch is pitch.
And I agree with him. You don't want to take the aggressiveness out of Valdespin, and he's very similar to Jose Reyes when Jose Reyes came up. Jose swung at a lot of bad pitches, and it's a fine line between backing them off as opposed and losing that aggressiveness. It comes with experience. You get a better eye with experience.
The one thing I'm surprised at, though, is you get your scouting report. You would think here you've got great speed with Valdespin and Torres, that someone, you need base runners, would try a little bunt to Dobbs at third base. That's a good play.
And Valdespin has shown that he likes to bunt early in the count.
I mean, he's got 2 strikes now, so that's a whole different deal. But I would, during the course of the game, if I had a lot of speed, I would definitely try to get a base hit down that line on third base.
We've already seen the tentative way that Dobbs plays third base. Two-two to Valdespin, and he fouls it back. Andres Torres on deck.
Well, Valdespin, when he had all the home runs and the league didn't know him, well, they're pitching him a little bit differently now. They know that he's got potential, and they got to be more careful. But they just can't. You go up there and they find out if you hit the fastball, and you show them you hit the fastball, then they start throwing you breaking balls. So it's not the same program for him now. They're pitching him much more carefully, a lot more breaking balls, Gary.
Hit that splitter off Papelbon, hit the changeup off Clippard.
Yep.
Putting together a long turn at bat here. This will be the 9th pitch from Eovaldi to Valdespin. And he grounds one down to first, and Carlos Lee makes the play to Eovaldi. One away.
The thing about Eovaldi so far, guys, and watching him with all the walks, what's he have, 4 walks already? We used to have a phrase, I think, Keith, you know it, conveniently wild. He's just been kind of all over the place. It's hard to really center him so far, and that's what's eluded the Mets.
Well, to me, he just looks like, a very good young arm. It should be in AAA.
Yeah, he's
honing his skills.
Yeah.
He makes a lot of mistakes, but the potential's there. It's got a little bit of a lazy, kind of a slurvy breaking ball.
Here's Andres Torres, who popped up to short his first time up. Oh. And he throws that one way up and away as he let that curveball get away.
Kind of shook his arm there, Ronnie, after he threw that.
What happens for the younger pitchers, and I did this myself, he has a little wrap at the bottom. So in his motion, he will wrap, which means he brings the ball back from his wrist almost backwards a little bit.
He gives away that changeup, too. He telegraphs that change.
And whenever you wrap the baseball behind you, it takes a lot longer for it to get back on top of that breaking ball. It makes it inconsistent.
But a lot of pitchers do that.
A lot of pitchers do it, and I did it too, and then I had to be taught not to do it. And I changed it. I started bringing the ball straight back to my ear, more like a catcher's kind of throwing position.
1-2 to Torres, and the breaking ball inside. Mets have had just 1 hit against Eovaldi over the first 3 1/3. That was Ruben Tejada leading off in the 3rd. And the curveball hit toward left center, over in the gap. Ruggiano with a running catch. Nice play by Ruggiano for the 2nd out. Nothing not to like about this guy.
Oh, great jump, Keith.
Yeah, he's more of a corner outfielder than a center fielder, and there he makes that look easy. He ran that down.
Again, this is not some phenom coming up. This is a 30-year-old guy who has kicked around, had a little bit of time with Tampa Bay, but all of a sudden is making a large impact with the Marlins, with all the players that they've lost to injury and to trades.
Thinking they've been lucky in that way a couple of years ago. Didn't they have a guy named Brandon Wood, who was more of an infielder, had a nice year for them. Older player, bounced around the minor leagues.
Nash Tolley bounced to short his first time up. course, Emilio Bonifacio was playing center field when the year began, and Bonifacio is down with a thumb injury right now, and the Marlins, for the long term, I think they're going to be invested in Bonifacio because he and Reyes can be quite a speed duo at the top of the order. That one's ripped into right field, a base hit for Tolle, and the Mets have a 2-out base runner. But I guess the question with Bonifacio is, where is he best off playing? Is he a center fielder? Is he a second baseman? They've used him at third base. Where does he wind up?
I think where they have the greatest need, that's where I'd put him. But he can play. He can play all those positions because he's got such a strong arm, too, as an outfielder.
I don't think that they're going to hang on to Carlos Lee when this year is over. I think that Logan Morrison, the left fielder, is going to be moved to first base. He has played some first base.
Chris Young, the batter. The funny thing about Lee is they acquired him in early July when they were still trying to make a push. Then the season fell apart for them. They tried to trade him before the deadline, tried to trade him to the Yankees, and he turned down the deal. He likes it so much in Miami he wants to stay.
Well,
and he'd only been there for 3 weeks.
What's not to like about it?
Well, the fact that they're tied for last place and he could have gone to first place.
But think of the state taxes.
You got me there.
No answer. No answer for that.
Where are your priorities?
We know what yours are.
Where are yours? Well, Eovaldi has already walked 4, has fallen behind the opposing pitcher 2-0.
Well, that's been about the, what, 5th, 6th trip by different players out to Eovaldi as they're trying to kind of push him through the door here.
Kind of like, your stuff's pretty good. Don't be afraid to throw strikes. And Young swinging on 2-0, grounds it down to Dobbs, and that ends the inning. That's a little bit of a surprise. A hit and 1 left. We've played 4 now at Citi Field, 3-0 Miami. Team has been a bigger disappointment in the National League East. A, the Marlins, or B, the Phillies. Text us at SNY.TV or 56812. Let us know what you think. Of course, the Phillies, the 5-time defending division champs, but it was the Marlins who went out and spent all that money in the offseason and had all the hype coming into the year.
Well, to me, the Marlins were on paper going to be a good team. They've proven that they haven't been this year. Paper means nothing to me. Phillies had championships.
So, what's your answer?
I'm saying that the Phillies are a disappointment.
Okay.
Mark Burley, one of the guys that the Marlins shelled out the money for. They got Burley, they got Bell, they got Reyes, all of them big free agent deals.
There's a lot going on in that island. It was a great shot, wasn't it?
It's quite an island.
you were talking about it's a quick turnaround tomorrow. Usually on these days, and I don't know if RA would do that, but RA is the pitcher tomorrow. You would usually, on a night game, if it's a 12 o'clock start, you'd go, well, I lived in the city, go have a nice meal, and, at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, watch the first 3 innings, and RA's staying for the whole thing, it looks like, and then get your rest.
Brian Peterson takes the breaking ball away. Well, in RA's case, with the Mets one player shy on the bench, he might need to pinch hit.
Yeah, you're right.
Justin Ruggiano on deck. And Peterson lines another one, and this one right at Torres. So he's at 3 line drives to the outfield, 2 at Baxter, and now 1 at Torres. And Peterson a very hard 0 for 3.
Well, it's a big hang with him here. Got to hit him a little lower. Higher.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Ruggiano, who's 0 for 2. Fly to center, fouled out to first, and takes a strike from Young. Now, in my understanding, Ronnie, when you were pitching, as you look at some of the traffic, very nice.
Who's that? The Grand Central?
Now, when you were pitching, Ronnie, usually the next day starting pitcher was charting.
It's funny, in the minor leagues, you would dress out and go in the stands right behind the plate, and that's where you would chart from.
Deep to center field. Torres back in the gap. Can't get to it, and it hops over the fence. A ground rule double for Justin Ruggiano.
Well, he continues to hit here and just hits it too far and hard. That's right in front of the 390. That's a good opposite field double right there. And we know that Torres likes to play a shallow center field.
So Ruggiano's at second with 1 out. Now Jose Reyes.
Ronnie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you charted, was there anything beneficial when you charted?
Oh, absolutely. You would write things on the chart that would not write things on the chart, write in your own notebook or any kind of piece of paper, things that happened during the game that would help your style of pitching.
So when did that change?
I don't know when it changed. Well, it changed when they were able to hire a video person that would sit in a room and chart all the pitches.
So what you're saying is it's good for employment.
It's fantastic.
Somebody else gets a paying job to do that rather than it falling in the pitcher's lap.
Well, the science has come that what they get on the computer is what the pitch is. I saw a lot of video guys in my day when I went to Oakland that let's just say they didn't really know a cutter from a changeup from a slider, but then we got one later who was just fantastic, knew the game and could really help. And once I got to the big leagues, then we did it from the dugout, which was tougher.
Young appears to be pitching around Reyes here. And there's a strike, 3-1. Got Carlos Lee waiting on deck. There was a day when you wouldn't pitch around anybody in front of Carlos Lee because he would be the threat to hit a 3-run homer. It's not really that guy anymore. Still a pretty good hitter, but not the home run hitter he once was. And there's the walk to Reyes. So a pitch around for Young. His 3rd walk of the night, and Lee will come up with 2 men on. So give me an example, Ronnie. What kind of note would you write down that might be useful for you the next day?
The first 2 times a batter is up, he would take the first pitch, always take the first pitch, because you can tell if you're watching the hitter whether he's going to take the pitch or not. You can really see it. And then with 2 guys on in the 7th inning, he swinged at the first pitch. So that lets me know that anytime he's in an RBI situation, he's going to be more aggressive than he is early in the game. Those are the little things that I wanted to know. I had to know that if a guy's coming up, RBI situation, I'm going to start him with a curve, not a fastball.
Now, could you get that just from watching the one game, or is that more enhancing what you already knew about a guy?
Well, it's built over time. In the minor leagues, you had to do it in one game because you might not see this guy for the rest of the summer, or that the hitters in that lineup. You see the scouts here, they take and score, writing down what they're seeing.
There go the runners. The throw to third by Tolle is high, and Wright does well to keep it from going down the line. Ruggiano and Reyes pull off a double steal.
Well, we noted before that Chris Young is long going home, and a good time to steal Ruggiano. Nicely done, and this sets up a big inning here.
Well, that was definitely played by Miami. Pitching coach comes out to talk about how to face the hitter. They steal on the first pitch.
10th stolen base for Ruggiano, the 28th for Reyes. A 2 in scoring position. The infield moves in, and Lee fouls it off, and Young, who needs a strikeout, gets ahead 0-2.
Interesting defense how Tejada on the left side of the infield, Tejada right are committed in to get the runner. Now Murph is halfway. Very interesting with a right-hand hitter up.
Normally you'd be further in on the opposite field side than you would in the pull side. Now Young ahead on Lee, a very tough man to strike out. And he lines one, shallow left. That falls for a base hit. Ruggiano scores. Reyes right behind him. He'll score. It's a 2-run single for Carlos Lee. And the Marlins now have a 5-0 lead. Didn't hit it hard, but got it into the outfield to drive home a pair.
Well, I agree with bringing the infield in. You could have played halfway. That wouldn't have made a difference. And a good pitch inside, but you got a very strong El Caballo right there. You can see he tied him up inside, but he's just strong enough to muscle it out there. And very wisely done by Valdespin here, not throwing home. Realizing that Reyes is the backside runner, you're not going to throw him out.
RBIs number 50 and 51 for Lee. And now Chris Young in a 5-0 hole. Stanton again swinging at the first pitch he sees, fouls it back. Stanton hit a 2-run homer on the first pitch in the first inning. He drilled a double on the first pitch in the fourth inning. Ramon Ramirez up in the Mets bullpen. Marlins now with 5 runs and 6 hits. This is a team that came into the night the second lowest scoring team in the National League. They had the one big inning against John Neese last night, enough to win the opening game of the series. They put on a first inning bombardment against Chris Young tonight. Now they've tacked on here in the 5th.
Stanton's seeing the ball pretty well right now. Defense straight up and deep. Can't even see Mike Baxter below us, barely.
Stanton holds up and takes the fastball for a strike, and it's 2-2. Greg Dobbs waiting on deck. And Stanton ropes one deep left center, headed toward the wall, and it's out of here. A bullet 2-run homer for Mike Stanton, his second 2-run homer of the night. More power than anybody in the game right now.
I think
Stanton's
so.
21st home run of the year makes it 7-0 Miami. That was awesome.
And that's going to be it. That is Herculean. This is just, oh boy. You can see the slider run. He just stayed flat.
You know, there used to be those old wives' tales that the shortstop would jump for a certain home run and it would go out to left center. That's as close as it gets.
That was it. Wow. Young gives up 3 home runs, 2 of them to Stanton. He'll take his exit. The call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon Wireless. Win Mets memorabilia from Verizon at Mets.com/Verizon sweeps. Ramon Ramirez comes out of the bullpen for New York to relieve Chris Young.
Well, Ramirez has been much sharper since the All-Star break. See, still those 27 baseball balls in the innings pitched is troublesome.
Had a rough go in his last outing Sunday in San Diego. Gave up a home run to Carlos Quentin, an RBI double to Mark Kotsay. Meanwhile, man-child Mike Stanton, now known as Giancarlo, has put together quite a night tonight.
I know we could have appreciated that power from our booth, but you could really appreciate it from the angle we had here, where the ball seemed to start out at about 10 to 12 feet high and never rose and never sank.
First 2 home run game of the season for Stanton, the 5th of his career. And many more to come. And the scary part for the Mets is they're going to have to face this guy for a long time.
Well, the deal for them is that they want to surround him with a bunch of rabbits and fast players like Reyes, so they can go get it in that big field in Miami. And it doesn't matter what field he hits in.
Well, he missed 25 games with knee surgery, as this one is hit out to left field off the bat of Dobbs, and Valdespin over to play it for the second out. The Marlins went 8-17 while Stanton was on the disabled list. He came back last night. They won. He drove in a run, and tonight a pair of 2-run homers, and mixing a double as well. So Chris Young's pitching line tonight: 4 1/3, 7 runs, 7 hits, 3 walks, 1 intentional, 4 strikeouts, and 3 home runs. Nick Green takes a strike. Stanton now has 9 home runs against the Mets in his career. Tejada gobbles up that grounder and throws out Green to end the inning. But Mike Stanton putting on a show tonight at Citi Field. His second home run of the night is a laser beam into the Party City deck. Just a bullet. 7-0 Miami. Matchup with insider info and opinion, plus an in-depth breakdown of tomorrow's lineup as they get ready for their series finale here at Citi Field on Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Top of the batting order, Ruben Tejada leads off against Nathan Eovaldi, who all of a sudden has a 7-0 lead. The last time we saw Eovaldi, he had a lead in the 5th inning and couldn't get out of the 5th inning while he was working for the Dodgers. Went 4 1/3, allowed a run on 7 hits. Now he's 3 outs away from qualifying for his second win as a Marlin in 3 starts. Same pitcher got beat up and knocked out after 2 innings against Atlanta his last time out. This has been a troubling portion of the game for Eovaldi all year, no matter whose uniform he's been wearing. Third time through the order and beyond. The league is hitting .403 against Eovaldi. Mike Baxter on deck, and then David Wright. And threw that fastball by Tejada, 2-2. '22-year-old from Alvin, Texas, which produced a pretty fair fireballer named Nolan Ryan.
That's right.
Full count to Tejada, who's been aboard twice with a walk and a base hit, which stretched his hitting streak to 13 games. Mets have had just 2 hits all night.
Excuse my ignorance. Alvin's near where? Houston?
I think it's in the Houston area. I know that Red Murph figured out where it was. Red was the scout who signed Nolan Ryan. There's your key 5th inning recap. Mike Stanton, 2 home runs and a double, 4 RBIs. Tough night for Chris Young. Nathan Eovaldi, despite 4 walks in 4 innings, has held the Mets off the board. And there's ball 4, and Tejada's on for the 3rd straight time. That's the 3rd time in 5 innings that Eovaldi has walked the leadoff hitter. It has not burned him yet.
Well, he's playing with fire, that's for sure.
A little easier to play with fire when you have a 7-run lead.
Mike Baxter's 0 for 2, grounded to 3rd and popped to short. Mike now 0 for his last 9 official at bats, but over the course of that period, he also had that 5-walk game in San Diego Saturday. And he grounds one down to first. Lee on the backhand gets the out at second. Reyes the return, not in time. Baxter beat the Rap at first with the pitcher covering.
I don't think the pitcher got his foot on the base.
Did not.
He throw this a little harder too, by the way.
Now you got El Caballo over there. He's not a first baseman. Pitcher's got to get his foot on the bag. If anything, with the soft toss, Ron, it gives you another step to get over there.
That's right. I'll tell you, Mel Stottlemyre was such a stickler for that, and we used to do it over and over. And we're like, Mel, why are we doing this over? He goes, you know why? Because I care. I don't want you to get injured. That's why I want you to touch the base properly.
And properly would mean?
On the inside part of the base, giving the base runner the entire top of the base to step on so he doesn't spike you.
Absolutely. And there's some mean players in the old days that would just relish the opportunity.
David Wright fouls one away. David grounded back to the mound and flied out to right, 0 for 2. Well, we've seen Eovaldi walk the leadoff hitter 3 times tonight and not have that runner come in to score. When a leadoff walk is issued, the offensive team scores over 41% of the time in the major leagues
and
this year.
That's constant year in, year out, Gary.
I want to go back to that because the second item on there is fascinating to me. This is something Sandy Alderson talked about earlier this year. When you out-homer your opponent, you win 78% of the time.
Wow.
Gives you an idea just how important home runs are in this game. And as home runs have become more precious, because you don't have guys hitting 60, even 70 anymore, that has made the elite power hitter that much more valuable. And that's why when you look at a guy like Stanton, who projects as a 40 home run per year guy, teams salivate. Popped up in foul ground, and that'll make it over to the seats. 2-2. You know what I mean? In that era we had for 10 or 15 years when guys were hitting 40, 50, 60 home runs in their sleep, the individual home run hitter was not as valuable because they were a dime a dozen. Now they're not.
I found, though, the problem I found later in my career, and part of it was lack of talent, but is the guy who was a 5 home run guy now hitting 15.
Ground ball off the pitcher, deflecting to the left side, and everybody's safe. Eovaldi, had he left that alone, probably might have had an inning-ending double play.
And that was not a wise move. Barehanded stab, Wright loves it. He gets a base knock out of it.
Oh boy, that's
just
easy double play.
That's just the dum-dum right there. And you got Reyes right there to cover it. You know that ball's not hit high. I know it's tough for a pitcher to he's reacting.
And now the question is Eovaldi okay after deflecting that ball with his pitching hand? And Randy St. Clair, the pitching coach, out along with the trainer to see if he's okay. So here he is after 4 1/3 again.
Exactly. That 5th inning for young pitchers. You know why? Because you start looking at result, not who you're facing. Boy, if I get through this inning, we're winning 7-0. I got a good chance at a W. I mean, it just pops into your mind. You try to get it out of there, but it comes in.
Well, especially for Eovaldi, who has had less run support than any pitcher in the National League this year. All of a sudden, he gets a plethora of runs to work with, and I'm sure the adrenaline's flowing that much more. He pronounces himself good to go. Wright gets credit for an infield hit, and the Mets have 2 men on for Ike Davis. Mets are already 0 for 6 tonight with runners in scoring position and have left 6 runners on in the first 4 innings.
And then you have a guy like Tommy Glavine, who won 305 games, who on that ball, he could field it, would let it go because he knew exactly where his fielders were.
Ike has grounded to second and drawn a walk, 0 for 1. Let's look at the results of our Toyota text poll. Excuse me, our Verizon text poll. Which team has been the bigger disappointment, and by better than a 2-1 margin, our respondents say the Phillies. I guess they didn't expect much from the Marlins. Here's the off-speed pitch from Eovaldi, and it's 0-2.
Nope. There you go, right there. How about that? Phillies came back. They were down 6-2. That's off of Tim Hudson. And what a series that Pittsburgh-Arizona series has been. That's a rubber match right there. Is it not, Garrett?
Ryan Howard hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 5th to tie that game for the Phillies. And Ike loses the bat as he strikes out for the 2nd out. Eovaldi with the curveball, and he completely befuddled Ike Davis.
You know, it's interesting. Eovaldi hasn't thrown very many curveballs to anyone, but that's all he threw to Ike. This was his best tumbler.
Only his 2nd strikeout of the night. So now 2 out and 2 on. It's left to Daniel Murphy. Murphy has walked and flied to center, 0 for 1. And he hits it in the air to left. Over toward the line comes Peterson into foul ground, and he's got it. Caught it actually in fair territory, and that retires the side. Mets have now left 8 runners over the first 5 innings. Marlins up 7-0. Already seen one ball nearly take us out. It was Jose Reyes back in the first inning. That was the first run of the game, and the Marlins have not looked back from there.
Home runs have really been the story today, haven't they?
No.
And it's I'm not going to say the coming out because everyone knows how good he can become, but sometimes you watch a certain player and leaves you speechless, and that is Mike Stanton.
John Buck's had a double and an intentional walk tonight. And Nathan Eovaldi is out on deck, so it looks like he's going to get another inning. 88 pitches through 5 innings for Eovaldi. But Stanton has impressed. A home run his first time up that he didn't even appear to get all of. And then his last time up, a BB that sailed 375 feet. 2 balls and a strike to Buck. Ramon Ramirez working in back of Chris Young. Ramirez came on to get the final 2 outs in the 5th after Young gave up 3 home runs and exited. 3-1 now to Buck. And Buck takes a big rip at a fastball. 3-2. And he goes down swinging, so Ramirez going with heat. Strikes out Buck for the first out of the inning. Let's check in with the studio. Gary Apple is there for this game break.
The pitcher, Nathan Eovaldi.
Eovaldi lifts one out to right, and Baxter is there to grab it. And Ramirez quickly has the second out. Well, it looks like Ryan Howard is just now getting it going. He had struggled so badly since coming back from the Achilles injury.
I was talking with some people in Philadelphia who are on the team, and they said that really Ryan Howard came back prematurely because he was just trying to get back because the Phillies were reeling, and finally now starting to find his way.
It's such a serious injury. Boy, you certainly don't want to have him re-injure that. Remember, he had a setback in spring training, if I recall, Gary.
An infection in that Achilles, which set him back. Well, here's Brian Peterson, who's hit 3 bullets tonight and is 0 for 3. Twice lined out to right, and last time up lined out to center. A game of little import tonight in San Diego, but a great pitcher's duel between Clayton Richard and Jeff Samardzija. Richard throws a complete game 5-hitter, and the Padres blank the Cubs 2-0. That's 2 talented young pitchers.
Well, they're both the same age, and Richard won Mr. Indiana, which was the best athlete, over Jeff Samardzija.
Well, Samardzija, better known for his football exploits in college, so Jeremy Huffner up in the Mets bullpen. Huffner now working in relief with the imminent return of Johan Santana, who starts Saturday night. Johan threw his bullpen session today, pronounced all went well. 3-1 now to Peterson. So the Mets will have a lot to look forward to this weekend in that series against the Braves. Matt Harvey's first home start Friday night, and Santana's return from the DL on Saturday night. That's a strike. 3-2. One thing we've learned about Santana since he arrived is how stoic he can be. Pitched through the knee injury his first year, pitched through the elbow injury, pitched through whatever was bothering his ankle and how that affected his shoulder this last time through. I mean, really since his Mets career started, he's been pitching with various physical woes, and until it got so bad that he had to go on the shelf, never said a word in any of those cases.
You know, they look like a lot different team when he starts every 5th day, don't they? I mean, that really was the big part of getting off to a good start, is that every 5th day he was making a quality start.
Well, the pitching rotation was what it was all about the first half.
Right. And turned it up a notch on June 1st.
I mean, Dylan G, unsung hero, when he went down, that was tough to overcome that.
Peterson down on strikes. So a nice relief outing for Ramon Ramirez. 5 up and 5 down. It remains 7-0 Miami in the 6th. Kevin Burkhardt with a view from further up on the Pepsi Porch, presented by Pepsi Max. Hi, Kev.
I'm going to say my view's the same as yours for the rare night for the second time this year, Gary. Well, you know, it's been a rough, obviously, season for Jason Bay, but it's even rougher when you watch him try and dissect what's gone wrong. And last night he did a lot of that with the media group, just talking honestly and openly. Terry Collins had a conversation with him, told him that his playing time is obviously going to diminish. Jason totally understood, said he did not want to be a distraction. Used that word multiple times. I talked to Jason today, and I asked him if he had any goals. You know, do you set goals for yourself for the rest of the year? Anything that you want to see from yourself that you could take that would be a positive thing into the offseason? And he said, you know, it's funny you asked that. I just had a long conversation with my dad, and we talked about a lot of things, and actually goals came up, and I really don't want to set goals. You know, I set goals in spring training, and they obviously haven't and won't come true, and I don't want to do that. I just want to do something positive, to feel like I have some sort of positive results. You know, I've been battling and fighting uphill for so long now, and you know, he said, I want to let things happen and try to stop make things happen. The other thing which he said, which was interesting, he said, you know, my whole career I've, you know, just kind of gotten up and done it. You know, I've gone to the park, I've had my routine, I've gotten up and done it. I've played hard, I've been lucky enough to hit, and I never really had to think about it. I have thought so much. I've tried everything in 3 years. He just seems like a guy that just doesn't know where to turn anymore, and it's tough to watch. You know, this guy's got a lot of pride. We'll see if he can get something positive going.
Valdespin shoots one by Dobbs and down the left field line. He'll take the turn and try for two. The throw to second by Peterson, and he's safe. Valdespin with an opposite field double to start the bottom of the 6th.
Well, right down the line, good hitting, cut and slash. And one thing that Valdespin brings to this lineup is speed. Cut that corner nice.
A little better throw. We might be talking about this play in a little different light.
Yeah, down 7-0. Certainly taking liberties, but able to make it. Now Andres Torres, who's 0 for 2. And let's get back to Jason Bay. And, you know, I don't ever remember a case quite like Jason Bay's. I mean, we've seen guys, get big contracts and fail before. There's Ryan Webb up in the Marlins bullpen, but I don't think we've ever seen a player become as broken mentally and physically as this guy, who has put in as much effort as anybody possibly could to overcome what has ailed him on the field the last 2.5 years.
Well, to me, he's like that rock out in the surf that just takes a pounding from the ocean, from the surf, and finally you just erode and whittle away. And I just find it very touching and very warm. I feel a warm feeling that he has that kind of relationship with his father. That's what your family's all about, that he called his dad. I can imagine that conversation. I know when I was in Cleveland and I was on my way out and I knew I couldn't play anymore. I was also 38. I bet you I had pretty much the same conversation as Jason had with his dad as I had with mine.
3-1 to Torres. And that's ball 4, and the Mets have the first 2 men on. And that's 6 walks now for Eovaldi, and can't imagine they'll stay with him too much longer. Here's your Toyota tweet of the game. What are your thoughts on the Mets' decision to platoon Jason Bay for the rest of the year? Tweet us at SNYTV with the hashtag SNYMets. There's a school of thought, and I think it's fair that the concussions that Jason has suffered have played a role in his inability to bounce back from what has ailed him on the field. And the case in point that a lot of people use is Jason's good friend Justin Morneau, who has taken 2 years to finally get back to being a semblance of himself.
And you can make the argument that Morneau was a better offensive player. He's an MVP type player. And he couldn't stay in the lineup. He would stay dizzy. Couldn't find his way, and really it's this season that he's finally getting it going again.
Ozzie Guillen out to make a pitching change. Nathan Eovaldi going 5 innings plus, giving up a passel of base runners, but no runs to this point. He'll take his exit. We'll be right back.
Nor anyone else, I would imagine. So I've had some time to kind of digest it, and more than anything, I just don't want to be a distraction. I don't want to get in the way of everybody else. I mean, what I got to do, and then hopefully put me in some spots and swung the bat well tonight, and hopefully kind of keep going. But obviously, this guy has played every day forever. I mean, that's it is tough, but I understand it.
Saying you don't want to be a distraction, that's you know, that's different territory for a guy who's used to being a star. Ryan Webb comes out of the bullpen for the Marlins.
Webb coming in here with no outs and 2 runners on is a sinker ball specialist, sinker ball slider.
See, he's struggled against the lefties this year. They're hitting .351 against him, and he's brought in to face Josh Tolley with 2 men on. And the fastball away for ball 1. Nathan Eovaldi, 98 pitches over 5 innings plus, 4 hits, but 6 walks, 2 strikeouts, and to date, no runs. Scott Harrison on deck to pinch hit. The Mets do not have a left-handed bat on the bench tonight. 5 right-handed bats. If they needed the left-handed bat, probably be John Neese. Down the left field side, headed toward the stands, and out of play. 1-1 to Tolley. Mike Dunn, the lone lefty in that Marlins bullpen, up now.
He did a nice job in last night's ball game, didn't he?
By the way, the highlight of the night has arrived. The Keith Burgers are here.
Oh, that's right. I've been incognito here, very covertly munching on them for the last half inning.
Well, I got the next burger with the very potent jalapenos.
Yes.
I'm sweating a little bit right now. 1-1 to Tolley.
Well, Ryan Webb is the son of former Met pitcher Hank Webb, who was back in the late 70s with Hank Webb.
Mid-70s, yeah.
Mid-70s when he
pitched for the Mets 72 through 76.
I vaguely remember.
Relief pitcher?
He relieved and started
a few games, but mostly a relief pitcher. But Hank was a Long Islander. Grew up in Copiague. Ryan grew up in Florida, down in Clearwater. Stole a ball and 2 strikes to Tolley. Of course, Hank Webb's most famous moment as a Met was in that 25-inning game against the Cardinals.
I was there.
He threw away
the pickoff
for an error, allowing Bake McBride to score the go-ahead run in the 25th inning.
And that was around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
45, yeah.
And we showered, got in the bus, and bus to Philly. Didn't get into Philly till like 5:30 in the morning.
But before you got on the bus, Bake McBride went on Kiner's corner.
He did.
At 3 in the morning. Yes, he did.
That was the 74. I got called up. I pinch hit in that game off Harry Parker. Dave Schneck robbed me of a home run in the 8th, I believe, or 7th. And we lost that final day of the season to the Pirates in the division. We bussed to Philly after that game, got in there around 5:30, played the Phillies 17 innings with a rain delay, and won it.
Wow. 42 innings in 2 days.
Tolley hits one up the middle. Nice backhand stop by Green, and Reyes turns it over for the double play. Now Nick Green making a sparkling play to start the 4-6-3 double play. 2 out, Valdespin at third.
Nope. If it was hit right at him, it's routine, tailor-made. Nice play. It was right.
Toughest part of reading that ball was he hit the mound and kind of held it in the air a little bit. Had to short hop it. Nice play.
Now Jason Bay is going to be the pinch hitter rather than Hairston. Bay has good numbers against Ryan Webb, 3 for 4, and that's why he's getting the call here. Bay's had 1 for 4 last night. And so much conversation revolving around Bay's demotion to a part-time player. But it certainly, as Jason said in that sound clip we showed a moment ago, came as no shock to him or anybody else. And he hits the first pitch on the ground to Reyes at short. And that'll do it for the Mets in the bottom of the 6th. Mets continue to strand him in droves. That's 9 left on base through 6. Mets down 7-0. By Cholula Hot Sauce. Visit the concession stands behind sections 137 and 431 at Citi Field to try the flamethrower tenders and the Chipotle chicken sandwich. Cholula Hot Sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. Ray Castaldi with his nice little alcove there for his organ. Got here at the Pepsi Porch.
Important they roped him off there.
Well, we got sort of roped off here. Jeremy Hefner on in relief to face Justin Rucciano starting the 7th inning. Hefner coming off a terrific start in San Diego Saturday night in which he went 6 innings, a lot of run on 4 hits and got the win.
He was just so efficient throwing strikes with all his pitches. Interesting to see how he comes out of it. A start to a relief appearance.
Well, of course, we first saw him as a reliever. His first big league outing against the Giants here, and then that long relief outing he had in Toronto when he went 5 innings. So he can be the true long man that you rarely see in baseball these days.
It's coming back in vogue now. And Bobby Cox and Tony La Russa brought in bringing in relievers for 1 inning, using 5 pitchers in a game. I think we're getting back to good old-fashioned baseball here with some real old-fashioned long relievers like Jeremy. Back in the day of the doubleheader, Ronnie, you needed them.
That's right.
Hefner walks the first man to face him. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Visit them on the web at searchmercedes.com. So here's Reyes, who delivered the keynote tonight with a home run up here in the Pepsi Porch in the first inning. His 8th of the year. Since then he's fouled out and then walked, stole a base, and scored a run in the 5th. Reyes now with a 26-game hitting streak, which, here's a little esoterica for you. It's the longest hitting streak for a guy the year after he won a batting title since Joe DiMaggio in 1941 when he had his 56-game streak. Out to left center, Valdespin over and catches Reyes' fly ball for the first out. You would think that a guy who won a batting championship the previous year would routinely have a long hitting streak the next year.
They might have long hitting streaks, but when you start to get into the 25s and above, that's serious business. I mean, he needed that little topper, in fact, last night to continue it. You need those, I guess, when you're having those consecutive game hit streaks.
Well, when you're trying to achieve something that involves hits and batting average, they all count, as Reyes demonstrated the last day of last year. His bunt hit that clinched a batting title. Carlos Lee had a 2-run single his last time up, and he pops this one up in foul ground. Tolley back for a look and has enough room to grab it. So that ball stayed in play for Josh, and that's the second out.
It's a rare pop foul to 2, the catcher in your scorebook. How many do we have those here? 3, maybe?
What's it, 45 feet from home plate to the backstop here? The shortest distance in baseball. Fans right on top of the field, but not too many foul ball outs for the pitchers. It's not Oakland. So here's Giancarlo Stanton, who has made the most noise tonight with a pair of 2-run homers. And takes a fastball for a strike from Hefner. Stanton hit one that was nice looking 2-run homer in the first inning, and then he had an awesome one his last time up. Nice pickup by Wright, and the Mets finally retire Stanton to end the inning. Hefner works around to lead off walk. 7th inning stretch, 7-0 Miami. Call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Bottom of the 7th inning, Ryan Webb begins his 2nd inning of relief. Ruben Tejada, who's been on base 3 straight times, will lead off for New York. Mets have had base runners in every inning. They've had runners in scoring position in every inning but one. But they've been shut out for the first 6 innings by Nathan Eovaldi and Ryan Webb. Mets have had 4 hits. They've drawn 6 walks. They've left 9 runners on base. Garrett Olson, who just joined the Mets yesterday, gets up in the bullpen. And a check swing tapper off Tejada's bat. And Buck throws him out. 1 away. So Tejada is retired for the first time tonight. Well, as we sit out here in the Pepsi Porch, apparently there's activity in the SNY booth. They rented out our space.
They did.
And it looks like they've done nothing but eat and drink all night.
Very nice.
And we left none of our personal belongings there, so guys, you're in an empty vault.
What are you accusing them of?
Somebody is feeding them, though, so that's good. Apparently the nice folks at Pepsi provided them with food and drink.
Very nice. Empty vault.
Mike Baxter takes a strike. Baxter's 0 for 3 tonight.
Oh, good cut.
There's your Hospital for Special Surgery Mets box score. Not a whole lot going on tonight. Mets been held to 4 hits and been shut out through the first 6 1/3. But there's the box score anyway. Oh, and 2 to Mike Baxter, and it's up and in. David Wright on deck. Will tapper down to first, and Lee will take it himself. Oh, and Baxter clipping Lee as he goes by. Lee taking it lazily to the bag, and Baxter hustling all the way, and Lee got tagged.
Oh, be careful. And he lost. Oh, his foot slipped on the base, too, it looked like.
Slipped over the base.
Yeah, there you go. That's what did it.
Boy. Well, he made the blooper tape.
Well, Lee appears to be all right. Baxter evades any problems too. So 2 out and nobody on. Now David Wright, who had an infield hit off the pitcher's bare hand in the 5th inning. 1 for 3. And David takes the fastball inside for ball 1. Well, sitting up here tonight, the Mets taking it on the chin, it proves one thing that I've known forever, which is that no matter what's going on in the field, if it's a nice summer night, it's always a nice night for a ball game.
Yeah, to be at the ballpark.
You know? I mean, we sit back in our little cave there behind the plate. And, you know, that's a nice place to watch the game from in terms of doing our job. But just in terms of enjoying the night and being out in the open space and amongst nice people, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was thinking that the broadcast now, because of the score, has turned less into how we usually do our job and 3 guys watching the game from the Pepsi Porch.
And doing a lot of eating.
I guess you do that at the game.
Yeah.
We do get pampered up here. For some reason, they must think we're starved up here because they just keep bringing the food.
Sorry about the Buddy Holly glasses, people. I have a little scratched retina right now, so.
But I agree, Gary. I think that we're up in that booth and we don't have anything behind to create a draft for us. It's stuffy here. We got the westerly wind blowing through. It's just wonderful.
And we've got the ambiance, you know, just being out in the air, as opposed to kind of being set back away from the field.
Well, that's great. Thinking when the players came up, all the Mets, you know, they have their own song. Can't always hear it from where we are. Easily can hear it from out here.
2-2 to David Wright with 2 out and nobody on. And David hits one that's going to fall into left field for a base hit. So David has his second hit of the night, a 2-out single. And now Ike Davis is 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. By the way, you're right about the food, Keith. We have been overwhelmed by goodies tonight.
And folks, we get a shot of this. Gary is so methodical. He is like Napoleon when it comes to destroying a Tootsie Pop. he flanks the enemy. He encircles it. He calls the cavalry in after it's routed.
What are you trying to say?
Doesn't sound that appetizing right now, the way you describe it.
I think what Keith is trying to say is that I don't bite my Tootsie Pops.
No, Gary will have the patience to take it down to the very end very slowly.
There'll be no crunch on the chocolate. One and one to Ike Davis, who's 0 for 2 and a walk tonight. And Ike pops one up. Carlos Lee makes the call. And that retires the side. So Hank Webb with 2 scoreless innings in relief, or at least his son Ryan. 7-0 Miami after 7. Guests to have dinner with us and catch the game in the SNY Suite at Citi Field September 12th. All proceeds will benefit the high school basketball teams playing in the 2013 SNY Invitational. Bid today at sny.tv/charity auction. We can only hope we're as well fed as we have been tonight.
That's right.
At that charity dinner. 8th inning, 7-0 Miami, and the Mets debut for veteran left-hander Garrett Olson.
Pitch in Baltimore, Seattle, Pittsburgh. Won 4 games in Buffalo this year in 21 starts with 94 strikeouts. And every guy from Fresno, California pitches well in a Met uniform, don't they?
Seems that way, doesn't it? Going all the way back to Tom Terrific.
Tom Terrific. Dick Selma was from Fresno.
Bobby Jones was from Fresno. Greg Dobbs will lead it off against Olson, who'd been working mostly as a starter in Buffalo this year. Made 21 starts, 4 relief outings. And Dobbs takes wide for ball 1. Olson, a former #1 draft pick by the Orioles, but it just never worked out for him in Baltimore. Now 28 years old. And Dobbs drills it to deep right center, headed toward the gap, and that ball will go one hop against the wall. Baxter back to field it, and Dobbs pulls in at second base with a leadoff double.
Dobbs does not get a lot of at-bats against left-handers. He did not pull off on this outside fastball and rips it into the quick gap.
So one batter, one long hit against Garrett Olson, and now Nick Green, who's 0 for 3 tonight. Grounded out twice and struck out. Chris Hatcher, the former catcher, up in the Miami bullpen. And Green takes up and away for ball 1. There are your city probables for tomorrow afternoon. Terrific pitching matchup. R.A. Dickey against Josh Johnson, who has had a resurgence of late. Dickey trying again for win number 15. Noontime start tomorrow. And Green late on the fastball, and it's 1-1. Jeremy Hefner worked a hitless inning in relief, walked 1. Its bullpen has been good tonight. In fact, you go back the last 10 games, the bullpen with a 2.05 ERA, which has been a nice change, of course. John Buck waiting on deck. Olson brought up to be the second lefty in the Mets bullpen with Tim Burdack out. Here's a pop-up, and Ike Davis in foul ground to grab it for the first down. So 1 out. Let's go to the studio. Gary Apple standing by for this game break.
The catcher, John Buck.
Things back to normal at Citizens Bank Park. Right. Here's John Buck, who's doubled, walked, and struck out tonight, 1 for 2. We mentioned Burdack. Tim is still weighing his options after being diagnosed with a tear in the anterior capsule, but you'd have to believe that, like Santana and Young before him, that he's going to be headed for surgery. The question in Burdack's case is, at age 38, is he going to be able to come back from that kind of serious surgery? And I think that's why he's going to get every opinion that he can before making that decision.
He's got 2 guys he can go to and find out what kind of work goes into getting back on the field than Santana and Chris Young.
Of course, it took Santana a little longer than it took Young. Chris was back in less than a year after his surgery. And, you know, we said when Santana first got hurt, you know, there isn't a whole lot of history about this injury. All of a sudden, there's a lot of history.
How about that?
I mean, Chen-Ming Wang had it, Mark Pryor had it, Jorge Posada had it. But nobody had really ever come back before Santana did, and now Young after him. And Buck takes a fastball for a strike, 2-2.
So you're thinking that it's the happenstance, or you just don't know? Is it training? It's going to be interesting to watch as we go along. Are they better at diagnosing it?
And are they better at fixing it? And is it just happenstance that 3 Mets have been diagnosed with that injury? Are there others out there who might have it and not be being diagnosed because they're not seeing the same medical team? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to get my elbow operated on in November. Not a big deal, but my buddy's going to do it, who I went to school with, and I told him he's going to give me the full workup to see exactly what's wrong with the right wing. See how many problems are in there.
So you're going to have the MRI as if you were still playing.
Yes, just see what it looks like.
So we'll see all the reasons why you wouldn't be able to pitch.
Yes, well, there's about 100 I can just name right off the top of my head, but we'll do the medical.
By the way, your buddy, Rich Diana, is one of the best Ivy League football players I ever saw.
He was. It was unbelievable. He's here tonight, in fact, with his family. Wanted to watch our broadcast behind us.
Rich used to routinely beat Columbia single-handedly.
That's right.
Or so it seemed.
Usually by halftime. But he's an orthopedic surgeon now in Hamden, Connecticut, so I trust him.
This one cracked off Tolley's mask. That hockey-style mask may provide more protection, but not that much more.
You know, the thing about the hockey mask, though, because it fits loose around the face, there's a lot of rattling around in there once the ball hits that mask, as opposed to the tighter fitting, you know, what Mike Nickius used to wear, but only the catchers and umpires would know.
Well, there's the old-fashioned mask the umpire's wearing there.
8th pitch of the bat coming from Olson to Buck. And that's too high, ball 4, and so the Marlins have 2 men on in the 8th. Let's ask our AT&T trivia question. The only 2 rookies ever to win the batting title, and we'll answer it immediately. Al Kaline's one. Who's the other?
Fred Lynn? No, Tony O.
Neither. Now, Kaline was 20 years old when he won, but I guess he wasn't technically a rookie. Ichiro, that's kind of an asterisk there, because he had played 10 years in Japan. And, of course, Tony Oliva was one of the best hitters ever. And if it hadn't been for injuries,
knees.
Yeah. He could have been. I don't know if he would have been Pete Rose, but he was.
No, he had more power. He had more power than Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Cut and slasher, too.
He was a front foot hitter.
Yep. I remember the story reading his biography when I was a kid, and he had come over, and he only had one passport and visa he could use. It was his older cousins. So when he came over, they thought he was 19. He was really 17.
Gorkis Hernandez, the pinch hitter, batting against Olson with 2 men on. And Olson having trouble finding the strike zone. It's 2-0.
Well, my old friend and teammate Jim Cott, who played in Minnesota with Tony Oliva, said that he was just such a class act. Cuban born.
He won 2 batting titles? I think he won them back-to-back years.
Yeah, yes, I believe you're right.
It's tough to do, huh? Win a batting title in Minnesota? Outside, half the games? People always talk about the cold in Minnesota, but people used to tell me a lot in the summer you'd get incredible mosquitoes.
Sure. Manny Acosta quickly up in the Mets bullpen as Olson continues to struggle.
Well, Jim Cott told me that, you know, they had a lot of power hitters on that Twin team. Harmon Killebrew, Bobby Allison, and that crew. And he said all the good pitchers would come in, and they would be the aces would come in and they'd get those guys out, but they didn't get Oliva out. Oliva was just head and shoulders above as far as pure hitting.
Didn't have any holes in that swing.
He won 3 batting titles, including his first 2 years. Then he won one again in 1971. Hit sharply through the hole, a base hit for Hernandez. Dobbs is held at third, and the Marlins have the bases loaded. So Olson in his Mets debut has given up 2 hits and a walk, and the bases are full. Dan Worthen will head out for a conversation before he faces Brian Peterson. Now, Oliva played 15 years, but he missed large chunks of 4 different seasons because of injuries. Finished with over 1,900 hits, a lifetime .304 hitter.
His batting title years, Gary, what did he hit?
323, 321, and 337.
Wow. I remember when Orlando Cepeda, you were mentioning him before, Keith, late in his career, and he had the double knee braces on, couldn't run a lick, and still hit over 300 for the Red Sox that year. That's how good he was.
He finished up in Boston, did he not?
I'm not sure, but I know that was one of his last stops.
Now Brian Peterson is 0 for 4 tonight. 3 bullets to the outfield that were caught and then struck out his last time up. Chris Young went the first 4 1/3 for the Mets, allowed 7 runs on 7 hits, 3 home runs, 1 for Reyes and 2 for Stanton. Mets bullpen has yet to allow a run, but Olson on the ropes here in the 8th. And Peterson takes a fastball that just missed for ball 1. Ramon Ramirez went an inning and 2/3, didn't allow a base runner. Jeremy Hefner walked the leadoff hitter in the 7th, but then got the next 3 outs. Garrett Olson from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Not too many big leaguers from there. Drilled to center field. Torres over. Slides, can't get it, and it goes all the way back to the wall. Dobbs is in. Buck scores. Turning third and heading home is Hernandez. He'll score. It's a 3-run triple for Brian Peterson. 10-0 Miami. Well, Peterson's been hitting the ball hard all night. He finally has something to show for it.
Well, nice effort by Torres here, and just can't pull up. Tries to block it, gets by him, and that's big. You can see right knee going right into the outfield grass.
So an inauspicious Mets debut for Garrett Olson as he gets tagged here in the 8th inning. 10-0 Miami. Mets will make a pitching change as Terry Collins heads to the mound and Manny Acosta comes on in. Justin Turner in to play third base. He'll bat 9th, and Manny Acosta goes in the 3-hole.
Well, he's had a couple of scoreless appearances. In fact, last night's ball game, strikeout in an inning of work.
3 runs in here in the 8th inning. Garrett Olson only retired 1 batter, gave up 3 hits and a walk. Already charged with 3 runs and on the hook for 1 more. With Peterson at third and 1 out. Justin Ruggiano the batter, and the Mets won't bother to play the infield in. Down 10-0. Ruggiano 1 for 3 and a walk tonight, and he takes a strike from Acosta. Well, not a good debut clearly for Olson, and Garrett Olson's never been known as a left-hand specialist, but the Mets may be grooming one now down in AAA, and a kind of unlikely candidate. The former St. John's pitcher and longtime major leaguer and blogger C.J. Nitkowski at age 39 was just promoted from Binghamton to Buffalo after hounding the Mets for a tryout earlier this year. First being denied and then finally being signed a month or so ago. Who knows, maybe Nitkowski will be here sooner rather than later.
He knew what was happening. Nitkowski did pitching for many teams. I thought he did some of his best work for the Tigers, I think.
There is an old saying in baseball, if you're left-handed and you can breathe, there's a job for you.
That's right.
Or an opening at least.
It may well come to pass. C.J. Nitkowski, the way things are going. 1-2 to Ruggiano, 2-2 to Ruggiano. And he grounds one off the mound behind the bag. Tejada double clutches and loses the play at first. A run comes in to make it 11-0. It'll be an infield hit for Ruggiano, but if Tejada doesn't double clutch, he probably throws him out.
Ball's hit hard up the middle, and the bare hand, we've seen Tool off the forearm, wrist, the ulnar.
There's a silly play.
The radius.
Ray Ramirez, the trainer, out to see if Acosta is okay, and he's quickly convinced that he is.
And the beating continues.
We'll close now on Garrett Olson, a third of an inning, 4 hits, 4 runs, 3 hits. Now Donovan Solano will bat for Jose Reyes, a right taken out in the blowout, and so is Reyes. Solano, who started and played second base last night and went 0 for 5, pinch hitting here with Ruggiano at first and 1 out.
Well, you know what, Gary? Sometimes you hit rock bottom. You only one way to go, and that's up. And you know this might be the game right here. We'll see.
You know, it's funny because during his pregame press conference tonight, Terry Collins made the point. He said, look, we have not been winning. We've been coming up on the short end. He said, but look at the results. We have not been getting blown out.
Yeah.
Well, for a rare event, the Mets are getting blown out tonight. And by a Marlins team that had been struggling even more mightily than the Mets over the last 2 months. Strike 3 called, and Solano's out for the second out. Tonight's broadcast live from the Pepsi Porch is brought to you by Pepsi Max. 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. By Hyundai. New Hyundai owners are talking about their cars in the booth. And by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Now Carlos Lee with 2 out and a runner at first, the 8th man up in the inning. And Lee takes a fastball for ball 1. Lee turned a 3-0 game into a 5-0 game in the 5th inning by dunking a base into left field to drive in 2. 1 for 3 and a walk tonight. He scored 2 runs. But the big story for the Marlins tonight is the guy on deck, Giancarlo Stanton, who has already hit 2 bombs tonight. And Lee hits one out to right field. Baxter easing over. And that ends the inning. But the Marlins tack on 4, 3 of them on Brian Peterson's triple. 11-0 Miami in the 8th. At 12:10, it's the series with Jose Reyes and the Marlins concludes. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX for your tickets now. Beautiful view from above Citi Field, where it's been all Marlins tonight. Donovan Solano, who pinch hits, stays in the game at shortstop, and Chris Hatcher will pitch the bottom of the 8th inning.
Well, he's been called up 3 different times, but he's only appeared in 3 games. Mostly has done his work in New Orleans with his efforts, 37 games down in the minor leagues.
We saw him last year with the Marlins. He had spent 5 minor league seasons as a catcher, and so at age 26 still trying to establish himself from the mound. Just his 4th year of pitching, really his 2nd full year. Daniel Murphy will be pinch hit for here. Ronnie Cedeno batting for Murphy as we start the bottom of the 8th inning. Ronnie started yesterday at second base, went 0 for 1 in a walk. Now that's a good shot. Ground ball for Solano to handle at shortstop, and he throws out Cedeno 1 away. I understand taking Wright out of the game. Murphy doesn't play every day. I'm wondering why you would take him out of the game at this point.
All I can think of is that usually doesn't happen. It happens for the star player, but all you can think of is the 12 o'clock start. Josh Johnson, you know, trying to get Murph off his feet, get to go at 12.
Get your bench player some at bats too. You know, even though it's 1.
Here's Valdespin, who doubled down the left field line his last time up. He's also drawn a walk tonight, 1 for 2. And Jordani takes the fastball low for ball 1. Well, we mentioned earlier in the game that the Marlins starter tonight, Nathan Eovaldi, had the lowest run support of any pitcher in the National League. That average will go up significantly tonight.
And most of that with the Dodgers, so maybe better luck here with the Miami team. That's pretty funny. I remembered the Miami, so not to say Florida. I forgot the second name, so I said the Miami team instead of Miami Marlins.
Join the club.
Oh man.
2-1 to Valdespin, and he pops one up in foul ground. That'll go out of play. A big night for our friend and minor league pitching coach Frank Viola. His daughter Brittany advanced to the semifinals in the 10-meter platform diving. So congratulations to Brittany. I know Frank is over there watching.
Yes, he is. Took some time off from his role as the pitching coach for the Sand Gnats in Savannah.
So we'll be following that closely. Line left field. Peterson is there to pick it off. 2 down. Back to our Toyota tweet of the game. We asked what your thoughts were about decision to platoon Jason Bay for the rest of the year. Matt Nowicki says thinks it's fair, just not getting it done. Can't question his effort. Beller 8 says it had to happen. Great guy, one solid player.
Those are very, very thoughtful tweets. I'm telling you. Compassion, empathy, I love it.
Well, I don't think any Met fan ever questioned Bay's effort. And frankly, considering the performance for the last 2.5 years, it took a long time for him to be booed. Most players who disappointed as much as Bay has after signing that big a contract would have been booed a long time ago. But I think everybody who has watched this team and watched the effort that Jason has given, leading to some serious injuries, understands that it's never been about the effort. And I think fans have appreciated that, and that's why it took so long for people to react negatively to his performance.
It's our understanding from the truck that the great majority of the tweets were very much sympathetic and understanding and measured. I find that very complimentary. You tend to think that the New York fan base is tough, and it's what have you done for me lately?
They are tough, but you know what? Effort is half the battle here.
Yep. Anybody that watched the Mets knew that Jason came to the ballpark every day, played hard in the field, ran everything out, and that's all you can ask.
I guess the bigger question is, where do the Mets go from here? He'll still play against left-handers. The Mets will face a lefty Friday with Paul Maholm pitching for the Braves. High fly ball, deep right center off the bat of Torres. And Stanton is there to grab it, and that retires the side. 0 runs, 0 hits, 0 errors. Pepsi Max, 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. Second base, and Frank Francisco, who's thrown only 2 pitches since coming off the disabled list, will get to throw at least his 3rd tonight.
That's right. Got a double play in San Diego. See his numbers: 19 out of 22 saves for Francisco on the season.
Just getting some work here, and Giancarlo Stanton, who has done plenty of work tonight, will lead off against him. Stanton, a 2-run homer in the 1st, a double in the 4th, another 2-run homer in the 5th. He's 3 for 4 on the night.
See if one of our pitchers for the Mets here can bust this young man in. Throw in, pitch in. I'm talking about get him out with strikes on the inside corner.
Boy. 2-0 to Stanton. You know that no Met has ever hit 3 home runs in a home game. It's been a long time since a visiting player hit 3 home runs in a Met home game. There's a base hit up the middle, and Stanton has his 4th hit of the night.
Well, you kept him in the ball yard. You pitched him in there, right? Yeah. But you kept him in the yard.
So a leadoff base runner for the Marlins in the 9th, and now Greg Dobbs.
Quite a night for Giancarlo Stanton. 4 for 5, 4 RBIs, 2 home runs, a double.
Josh Edgen getting ready in the Mets bullpen. So there have been 4 players who've hit 3 home runs in a Mets home game, none here at Citi Field. The first to do it as Stanton leaves for a pinch runner, and Scott Cousins will come in to run for him. The first to hit 3 home runs in a Mets home game was Stan Musial, who did it at the Polo Grounds in 1962. Then Richie Allen at Shea in '68, Pete Rose at Shea in 1978, and the last to do it, Dave Kingman, playing for the Cubs at Shea in 1979. So it's been 33 years since anybody hit 3 home runs in a Mets home game. And, of course, it's never been done by a Met.
That's not easy.
No, but 3 home run games aren't exactly like the dodo bird. They do happen occasionally. Mets even had one of their own.
Is that a disparaging remark on the dodo bird?
Dodo birds? I missed the dodo bird.
Disparaging word.
Don't you wish you could see a dodo bird?
It's late. Stop it.
Yes, it is. Exactly my point. Dobbs takes up and away, 2-1. Now our pregame hosts, Chris and Bobby, they were out in our position here in the Pepsi Porch before the game. They're not coming back for the postgame. They're going to be back in the studio, right?
They went back to the AC, right?
Really, this game's really slightly over around 3 hours. It seems like 6.
Aren't you having a good time?
I'm loving it.
I thought you were having a good time.
Drive in the air to deep right center. Back goes Torres. Back near the wall. It's out of here. Greg Dobbs with a 2-run homer as the carnage continues. 13-0 Miami. Third of the year for Greg Dobbs. And the 4th home run of the night for the Marlins, who had hit just 1 home run in their previous 9 games on this road trip.
Fastball down, inner half down. Got a 4-seamer running?
4-seamer down and in.
390 there. That's a long way.
Well, Dobbs getting a chance to play tonight at third base. A double and a 2-run homer to stretch the Miami lead. This has been a thumping.
Well, I borrowed our stage manager, Russ Relkin. I had to borrow his pen because mine ran out. And Russ, I'm giving you a bad pen back. No more ink left.
I have kept a very neat scorecard today because I'm not working tomorrow.
What does that mean?
I don't know why. I've just been very meticulous with it for
Green
some
strikes
reason.
out on 3 pitches for the first down.
That's because people are over your shoulder.
That's true. You got a lot of people watching tonight. It's a very lovely scorecard, I have to say.
I'm very proud of the work I've done tonight. I wish it could have been on a winning effort.
Well, you're a winner every night.
You gave max effort tonight.
John Buck's been on base 3 times and he fouls it back. Here's a little history for you. The last time the Mets suffered a loss of this magnitude at home, go back to June 24th of 2008. They lost 11-0 against the Seattle Mariners. The losing pitcher that night was Oliver Perez. The winning pitcher for the Mariners that night, R.A. Dickey.
Wow. How about that? Who gave you that tidbit?
It would be Dave Freed, our constantly munching stat guy.
He's still here?
The Invisible Man?
Finally got his computer going. 1-1 to Buck, and it misses away. 2-1.
That is a good one, David. Dave can focus on baseball now. There's no more NBA.
Pitcher Hatcher is on deck.
And that one's tagged into the hole. Nice play by Tejada, up and throwing, but it skips on by Davis and goes out of play, and that'll send Buck to second base. Beautiful stop by Tejada.
He has the presence of mind not to overrush. He just didn't make the throw. Tough play for Davis. An in-between hop is always the most difficult.
It'll be a 2-base error charge to Tejada on the throw. Well, that's going to be all for Frank Francisco. Came in to get some work and got some work that he didn't really want. Gave up the 2-run homer to Dobbs, and now Josh Edgen will try and finish off this top of the ninth. An ugly night for the Mets. Josh Edgin comes out of the bullpen to try and get a couple of outs. And the pitcher, Chris Hatcher, fouls one off.
Oh, he hasn't appeared in a game in 4 days. This is only his second appearance in 9 days, getting some work here for the young Edgin.
The 7th Met pitcher to work tonight. Frank Francisco brought him to get some work through 14 pitches and then taken right out, so he'll be available tomorrow. And Edgin misses low, 1 ball, 1 strike. Hatcher, as we told you earlier, started his career as a catcher, so he has had plenty of experience swinging the bat. Wasn't very good at hitting because otherwise he wouldn't have been made into a pitcher.
Yeah.
Lifetime .211 minor league batter with 36 home runs in his minor league career. So he's kind of like one of those Henry Blanco type or Rod Barajas type catchers. Doesn't get a lot of hits, but occasional power.
Great arm, right?
Obviously. Brian Peterson on deck. Edgin behind 3-1 on his first hitter. And Hatcher takes a rip. 3-2. Well, the Orioles won again tonight. That's 5 straight wins for Baltimore. Well, Anibal Sanchez left a bat behind. I guess he doesn't need it in Detroit.
That's right.
He started tonight for the Tigers and got thrashed by the Yankees. The Yankees were up 7-0 in that game. It's now 10-8 in the bottom of the 8th. So the Orioles won. They're 4.5 out going into the day. The Yankees at one point had a 10-game lead just 3 weeks ago. So that's becoming more interesting in the AL East. And Tampa Bay won again tonight as well. They started the night 6 games behind. 3-2 to Hatcher, and he got him. So Edgin fans the first man to face him. 2 out of the inning. Let's check in with the studio. Guys who were here earlier, back in the studio. Chris and Bobby. WB Mason post game live. All right, guys, by the way, those guys did such a great job on the pregame show with our director, Bill Webb, that I think Bill is now going to be directing their pregame shows the rest of the year. Short hop by Tejada at shortstop, and that will certainly add to his Emmy total, don't you think?
And reduce his commute.
13-0 going to the bottom of the 9th. stays in the game in right field. And on to get the final 3 outs, Chris Hatcher. Josh Tolley will lead off in the last of the ninth. Last time the Mets have suffered a shutout loss of this magnitude with Justin Turner on deck was 3 years ago. They lost a 15-0 game at Yankee Stadium. That was Santana's start, wasn't it? That 15-0 game?
Yeah.
Fastball strike to Tolley, who's 1 for 3 on the night. You hear the diehards here in the Pepsi Porch.
Gotta love it, right? Let's go Mets, down 13
from the throng.
They're very enthusiastic.
That's awesome.
We talk about it all the time. When you get down to the ends of these games, whether it's a long rain delay or the team is far behind, these are your most committed fans. Grounded to the right side, and Green takes care of it. 1 away. Coming up tonight on Geico Sports Night after the postgame show, the Jets have been making plenty of news. Time for the Giants to make some as well, and R.A. Dickey ready for his start tomorrow afternoon. Geico Sports Night tonight after the postgame right here on SNY. Now Justin Turner, who came in the double switch last inning, will bat for the first time. Justin struck out as a pinch hitter in the game last night. So the Mets had that grand series in San Francisco where they won 3 of 4. But now they will lose for the 5th time in their last 6 games. And they will go back to 5 games under 500, which will match their low point of the season. And the Braves on the verge of a victory. Meanwhile, the Nationals are up 3-2 on Houston as they play in the 7th. Washington started the night 4 games up on Atlanta in the East. They're still in it. Now check swing foul. When you get thrashed like this, are you happy to be coming back in less than 14 hours to play again?
That's a good question. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Well, I think it would be more deflating in a stretch run coming back, getting hammered like this in September.
Turner out on strikes. Mets are down to their final out, and we'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 11:30 as the Mets and Marlins conclude this series. R.A. Dickey against Josh Johnson.
Kind of our version of brunch at Wimbledon, right? Breakfast at Wimbledon. You know, I would usually say, and I think we've said this before, that sometimes it's easier to swallow when you just get blown out of the house, but it doesn't feel like that here, does it?
Well, I'm sure it doesn't feel that way to Chris Young.
Yeah,
of course. Just got thrashed tonight, giving up 3 home runs in 4 1/3 innings and getting tagged for the first 7 of the 13 runs the Marlins have scored tonight. If the Mets don't score here, this is going to be the 2nd most lopsided shutout loss at home in Mets history. The only one that they lost by a bigger margin was a 16-0 game to the Braves in 1999 that I remember for one reason, and that is that Matt Franco finished the game on the mound and gave up a home run to Andrew Jones. Dobbs completes it by throwing out Tejada, and the Marlins have shut out the Mets in convincing fashion. A big night for Giancarlo Stanton with a couple of 2-run homers as the Marlins take care of the Mets 13-0.
Well, Keith, I think the biggest question you have to ask is, with 51 games left, Terry Collins talked before the game about having confidence and playing with confidence. Well, very difficult to play with confidence after a loss like this tonight.
Well, I just think it's a demoralizing. They haven't won here now 9 games at home. And it's a demoralizing loss. You can see the looks on their faces. And, like you said, it's 51 games left. And what you got to look at is, hey, this could be rock bottom. Only one way to go, and that's up.
It's your game summary brought to you by Pepsi Max. The Mets suffer their 9th straight home loss. They had chances early with runners in scoring position, bypassed those, and then the Marlins clubbed the Mets 4 home runs, including a pair for Mr. Stanton. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Pepsi Max. Go to A&P Path Marker Waldbaum's and find the Pepsi display for details on how to win Mets tickets and a party in the Pepsi Porch. By New York State, discover what you love. Plan your vacation now. By AT&T, rethink possible. By Nissan, get to Nissan for the biggest savings under the sun at Nissan Summer Saving Days. Visit ChooseNissan.com or your local Nissan dealer. By Cholula Hot Sauce, the flavorful hot sauce with the iconic wooden cap. And by Audi, truth in engineering. Marlins overwhelmed the Mets 13-0. The Mets will try and salvage the finale of the series tomorrow. We'll join you at 11:30. R.A. Dickey pitches against Josh Johnson in the conclusion of this series. Now from the Pepsi Porch for Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, Kevin Burkhardt, and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Cohen at Citi Field. Time for WB Mason postgame live. Let's join Chris Carlin and Bobby Ojeda in the studio.